up an account. What state are you in? All right, let's play.
Yeah.
I want the next tip.
I enjoyed he sent me that. I went right away. I went right into whatever race, horse, okay. And a few minutes later, he texts me like, what is it at right now? And I'm like, you're asking me? I happen to know because I just looked. 6-1.
6-1. That's what I saw.
6-1 is our price right now on
6-1. Horse finished last.
Yes. Yeah, like maybe almost died.
I don't know. I don't want to find out.
Not a good situation.
Maybe last is the most that I know. Maybe last.
But best case scenario is he finished last.
Well, it's the funniest.
Well, I mean, considering what I just said, if
he finished, we definitely root for that.
Yeah, right, yeah.
That's the worst.
Oh.
I don't know. I want the next tip, but am I going to actually just every time willingly? What if I believe Sam, but maybe somebody you know and trust comes to you and says, I just got a horse guy. I met this guy, and he's got a horse guy, and the horse guy says at Hialeah, in the 4th at Hialeah, you need to be on the 8th. Aren't you going to play that if it's someone you like and sort of trust? Aren't you going to be like, okay, well, I have better odds, I think, in my twisted brain, I have better odds of winning this horse bet than if I knew nothing and just picked at random. Or based on whatever horse racing knowledge I might have. I'd rather just have somebody that I think might know.
I might even like my chances of winning that than, the crap I usually lose on.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Which is like 5 hockey games, like getting 5.
I agree.
I don't know how many times. I wonder if my app, it was, it's the same umbrella, but it's a different house or different room in the house. I wonder if they were like, What is this guy doing betting just one thing? What
happened to him?
Who is this? Did someone hack his account? Why doesn't he have like 4 other things attached to this? Because he's an idiot.
No, I mean, all we do is talk about the NFL. How did we do this year? I mean, I don't think, were you at 500? You usually have the better year than I have.
I did. I finished below 500. I lost once I was eliminated. I don't even know where I ended, but probably 3 or 4 games under 500.
Everything you know about the league, you lost more than half the time.
Right.
On the games you liked.
That's right.
We're only picking the games we like. We're only picking 5 a week.
Yeah.
We don't have to pick them all.
Yeah. It was my worst year in a while, but yeah. We're not that far removed from a year where I think you said, like, if you bet every one of these, you would have made probably a lot of money.
That might have been last year.
Where there was a year where I was like 20 games over. Like, it just, dumb luck is all it is. And so, yeah, I like the tip. I like getting a tip.
You have a better chance of winning a bet from a near stranger that you think has knowledge about horses.
Probably.
Than your own knowledge about the sport you know best.
Yeah, I feel like maybe that's right. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm at least open to considering it as right. Yeah.
That says something.
Not positive, but yeah.
That says something not great.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah.
Well, since we've established how much we know about football, it's time now for Reverse AFC Power Rankings Postseason Edition, powered by Empire Electric, your residential neighborhood electricians. Visit empireelectricians.com. Admittedly, there's not a lot new. But more of the new stuff with the bad teams happened like a month ago, after their seasons ended, and they're making coaching changes, and there are a couple things. We had a coaching hiring today. How will Kellen Moore
impact
leaving
the reverse
Philadelphia
AFC
for New Orleans impact the reverse AFC power?
Let's see. He left the NFC Super Bowl champion for another NFC team. I'm going to guess not at all.
That guy's, was it 4 different franchises in 4 years? Dallas, Chargers, Eagles, Saints. I think that's like the last 4 years for him. So it's not Joe Brady. Didn't sound like there was. Well, didn't he pull out?
Yeah, he backed out of it before they even played the Chiefs, I think.
Yeah. Okay, let's go. 16. I'm going to go all vibes today. No standings. I just hope I don't forget anybody.
I'm here for you. Well, still, it doesn't mean you won't overlook someone. All right, 16. Cleveland?
Titans.
Tennessee.
I'm okay there. I was about to say, could you tell? Regularly, I was about to say Tennessee, and then I pivoted to Cleveland. I started to say Cleveland.
I think there are 3 or 4 teams in the 14-15 range. But there's something, the smallest thing I like about them. And for the Browns, who were 16 last week, it's whether they trade Garrett or not. If they do trade him, and they, I think, probably should or will, they could do great. Tennessee has the first overall pick. Is it a good year to have the first overall pick? It might be the same as having the 4th or 5th overall pick. They're not, well, they might be in the quarterback mix. They probably are. No? What are they saying? I guess I'm hearing no.
Yeah.
Cleveland, yes. Giants, yes.
It's a bad year to be up top if quarterback is what you think you really need. They could just pick, the top edge guy and say, we'll just kick the can down the road on quarterback. Let's sign Aaron Rodgers for a season. Like, I don't know. They could do something. Or just, sit there, play Will Levis, and finish with a horrible record again and do this again next year when maybe there's a better class of quarterbacks. I have no idea what that forecast is. I've not seen reference to next year's quarterback class being, vastly superior to what's available this year. So I can't speak to that specifically, but if they think there's a better chance of a better guy, I think the last thing you want to do, I guess it depends on how much pressure ownership is putting on a second-year coach here, right? You got to get a quarterback, do it, and sink or swim. And if it doesn't work, you're going to get fired. That could be, not in exactly those terms. That could be what Brian Callahan is dealing with.
Darnold, Cousins, Rodgers. I think that is logical enough. It's more so than it is for the Colts. We talked about yesterday.
Yeah.
The Colts are kind of stuck. Get a backup that is just okay because you have more hope for Richardson, probably. More of an investment, draft capital-wise. Tennessee, 15.
I'll stick on Cleveland. I think they're going to be. I will be stunned if they don't trade Garrett. They're going to largely get futures for that. I hope they get Greg Rousseau for that as part of it, but still, it's largely going to be futures. So that starts them rolling toward what'll be a lengthy rebuild. Eventually, I don't know if it'll be this year. They'll get out from under. They'll be dead money whenever they do it. But the Watson thing is going to end. But I don't think they're going to be anywhere really until that's over. I know that doesn't preclude them from picking a quarterback this year, but they better be right about it. In the draft, I'm saying. I just think they're nowhere, man. They're going to trade their best player. Their most expensive player can't be put on the field. Beat that.
I'm stuck. It's Ben Cleveland. I'm stuck. Like the coach, like the potential Garrett Hall, and they'll draft Ward or Sanders. They'll do that. It's like the Patriots last year a little bit, where, at least they have this nice asset. Whereas maybe Tennessee won't do that, given them their pick. We just covered them. All right, well. Steelers.
Cleveland.
14. Steelers. What's their plan? Run it back.
I'm going to say Raiders.
I'm going to go Raiders, too. I really want them to get Shedeur Sanders, though. I don't think they're that far off, quote unquote. That division's hard, but I liked a lot what they did. Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly, Sanders isn't the worst prospect by any means.
Yeah, no, he's I think almost absolutely the number 2 prospect in this quarterback class, but that depends on what do you think of the class? Like we've already said, it's not a great year to be needing that. But still,
Chip Kelly.
Just because there's not 5 guys vying for the top of the draft here at quarterback doesn't mean one of those guys can't be really good.
Darnold, Chip Kelly, Pete Carroll. Is that a playoff team? With Tet McMillan, I mean, some other Bowers, maybe. Like
It depends on what you're getting out of Darnold. And I know the last 2 games should not shade the entire year. But they happened. Like I don't know. I don't know who. He I think is going to get paid by somebody. Teams are so starved. The quarterback class isn't great coming out in the draft. So I think all of that points to him getting a big contract somewhere. I think buyer beware on him. I mean, I thought the same thing about Minnesota even before he blew up in those 2 games. I was like, I don't know. It's a lot to bank on, $50 million a year, multi-year off of this season when the body of work has been mostly below average.
More talent around him and Flores and a better defense with Minnesota. In a brutal division, they won 14 games. Raiders at 14. 13. Pittsburgh. The Jets are moving on. I think that's probably good from Rodgers. So I'm on Pittsburgh at 13. The Steelers are never moving on from anything.
Except
they like where they live.
Except making the playoffs every year.
They're never moving on from being the 7 seed. They're the permanent. Right. They're the all-time quarterback. They're the all-time 7 seed.
We are going to do this dance with them again all offseason.
Yep.
Because I think they're going to be exactly the same. Somebody, Sam Darnold, I don't know. Somebody's going to play quarterback for them.
Andrew Filippone.
He sounds like Wilson's done, right?
Andrew Filippone on our show on Friday, was it? What day was it? We talked about Pat Summerall for 11 minutes, and the clock was running out. And I said, let's talk about the Steelers. And he said, why? And then I brought up Pickens. Like, do you like Pickens? Like, how could you? Or something like that, he said.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Sounds like a great place to be. Well, that's my pick.
Yeah, Andrew's not a great salesman for the Steelers. I mean, if it's going to be Fields, I don't think they make the playoffs. I think there is a shelf life to this. I don't see them going for Darnold. I think that's going to be a more desperate team. Tennessee, the Raiders, the Giants, who I think are going to be really desperate.
All right, put the Steelers in here for now. I'll push back against it another week. Yeah. But we don't know what their plan is at quarterback. And I agree. I think Fields, that would be a disaster, I think.
Follow the Mel Kiper rule.
I just don't think he can play. I would not want to hitch my wagon to that guy. I think I can see the talent and the attraction, but, geez, he's had chances.
The rule of Kiper. Just write it. Next week, we'll replace it. More content. We'll change it next week. Right. We'll have draft 2.8. This is now known as Reverse AFC Power Rankings 2.11 for the date. 12.
Jacksonville.
We never really spent any time about the Adam Gase-esque news conference introduction of Liam Cohen. There was some odd stuff there. The way he said Duvall was just kind of strange, and there was another thing where I just like, I don't know. I'm trying to imagine him, like you see on Hard Knocks in that lecture hall talking to, in training camp it'll be 90 people, and the season it'll eventually be 60 or whatever with the practice squad guy. I don't know.
Shades of Doug Marrone talking about how much he liked being in New York.
Sure, yeah.
When he got the Bills job.
I don't know, man. I get the attraction. He's worked wonders offensively and resurrected some careers for quarterbacks. Okay, I get it, but I don't know. I'm Jacksonville here is good.
Okay. 11 Jets. Come on.
Sure. Okay.
10. What a week for the Jets. What a result. 10 Colts. The Bills had an anthem singer for the Denver game, and they introduced her in the stadium as, like, New York's own. She's from Long Island. Why did they have to do that? Who pushed for that? Like, did the singer need to be introduced as New York's?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, did the Bills? Why would the Bills care? Like, is there more credibility if she's from New York? Does anybody in the stadium really care where she's from? She's not from Buffalo. We don't care.
That's it. I think we definitely care if you're from Buffalo.
New York singer. Yeah. Why? Like, I looked it up because, like, that's so weird.
Yeah.
Long Island. She was fine, but like, who needed that? 10. Indianapolis.
Yeah, you said that already.
I was the only one to say it.
Yeah,
I
I
like
know.
the Colts
right.
here.
Yeah, fine.
9.
New England.
Yep.
Yeah, it has to be.
Too much credit. Every week 9 for the Patriots. Wow.
Really?
Congrats on
It's
4 wins.
Back-to-back weeks? 9?
4 in a row.
Wow.
Have Vrabel bump.
I like
refused to
Vrabel.
go.
I do. I like a lot of what they are doing. We'll see
lot of cap space.
what kind of players they add. They're going to need some players.
Who said they liked, you're not going to know unless you know of somebody who said it, they liked Cam Ward more than May. Somebody said that. Is that crazy?
A little bit.
8.
I don't know. I needed to see May in the league. I was not excited about him. It read a little bit to me last year at this time and then into March and April like, oh, no, he's just like little Josh Allen. It's gonna be great. And like, okay, good luck with that. But, yeah, I think that's pretty much what he looks like on the field. So I'm optimistic for him. But
I like May more than Daniels.
But I don't know about Ward. Watching Ward early in the season, I was pretty excited about him.
I don't like that his name is Cam Ward.
Yeah.
Too soon.
I did see one of my draft follows was asked about Milroe on Twitter today and said early day 2 probably, but somebody could fall in love and do it on day 1.
And our bet is top 16.
Top 16,
If he doesn't get picked early day 2, he's not getting picked till Saturday. Because, third round guys, just what's the plan there? I guess I'll do it. That's what you really want in a quarterback situation is, I got a guy here, I guess. We'll see, maybe.
Flyer.
Nobody
right,
wants that.
Right.
You'd rather get him in the first round and just own it. And,
right.
Push your chips in. I'm all in. Bo Nix.
Yeah, Michael Penix to me is the you said it when we were formulating the bet. And that was sort of what tipped me towards, I'll make this bet. Because who saw Atlanta? Penix was thought to be a day 2 guy, I think.
At best.
And,
well, not at best,
and he
but
went,
yes.
With 8? So
yes.
All it takes is somebody to work him out and go, man, the arm, he's the best athlete at the position in the draft. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway. Davis Maddox as Milroe is Anthony Richardson, but just way worse.
Wow.
That's his take on Milroe.
Wow.
If you want a way worse Richardson,
right.
This is your guy. 8.
Miami.
Yeah, I can't think of a better idea. Miami again at 8. 7. Houston. They stink.
I feel like Houston, the Chargers, the Broncos. Every week here, I'm not shirking our responsibility. We take it seriously. We've got a sponsor and everything, and we're happy to have it. I feel like those 3 teams in any order here at this point in this thing, fine. I'm never going to complain about any one of those 3 teams.
Imagine losing twice to Kansas City in a season with how bad the Chiefs were. Neither game was really that close. That's Houston for you. I said it. I just said it. I can't think. I'm frozen. I don't know how much I want to say about I'm not ready. There's a backstory to that's Houston for you. It's not even going to be that interesting, but I just cracked myself up. You never do that.
Okay.
Never start to tell a story and then not be prepared to tell it.
Right. All right. Well, Houston's fine here.
6.
Chargers.
I'm sprinting from that.
Broncos. Chargers.
Denver.
Okay, fine.
5.
Chargers.
Cincinnati. Huge coach difference. Quarterbacks comparable? No, is that too much?
Yeah,
for Herbert?
Way too much for Herbert.
Okay,
I'd say.
I got to see the Chargers do something first, so I'll go Chargers here.
4.
Bengals.
3. Bills. That's Houston for you.
I still want the Bills ahead of Baltimore, so I'm going to say Baltimore.
I'm still going Buffalo.
Which team would you rather be? In a vacuum, right? It's emotional, so it's not like trade all your allegiances in, but...
I love Lamar Jackson. I think Josh Allen's better.
And the rest of it doesn't matter.
Really. Moving forward, I feel like I've got I trust my guy more than I trust their guy.
Fine. 2. Chiefs.
You're advocating for putting Baltimore at the top of this.
Right now, the Ravens are the better team of the 2.
If Lamar can just figure out some of the yips in the playoffs, they have so much talent. Not even just him, just them. The turnover issues figured out, they can mow through the AFC. They already kind of do most of the time.
You're not on board.
No, I hate this.
Well, wait for Kuiper 2.18.
Yeah, that's all right. Next Tuesday is another
Are you
day.
on Baltimore? Or what is that? Who's that
I
now?
think he's good with this.
Chiefs?
Yeah.
Okay. Ravens take it. Won't they be thrilled?
I'll make sure and let them know.
Reverse AFC Power Rankings powered by Empire Electric, your residential neighborhood electrician. Visit empireelectricians.com. Some draft. What?
Nothing. Have you seen the little blur? They have like a TV, like 10 or 15-second spot. Empire Electric, and I want so badly to have in quotes at the bottom of it, proud sponsor of Reverse AFC Power Rankings. I'm going to see if I'll take up a collection. I'm going to start a GoFundMe for us.
That's a win-win-win. They win, we win, the viewers win. We should have that if they're actually proud. If they're not proud, just don't use the word proud. Just say sponsor.
Right. Unfortunately,
disappointed sponsor of the Reverse AFC Power Rankings.
Sad, terminally sad sponsor of the Reverse AFC.
Sponsor of Reverse AFC Power Rankings, frown emoji. Done. Talk some draft. Myles Garrett odds. 803-0550. Sal Capaccio, Ross Tucker, Paul Hamilton. All still to come. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog WGR.
We know Yeah, and there's a lot of fans who want Myles Garrett to be a teammate of yours next season. Is that going to happen or what?
A lot of fans or a lot of current players that want Myles to be. So, hey, Myles, I know you looking, man. Come on and rock with your boys, man. We have a chance to do something great, and if we had you this year, we never know. You could have had that game-changing play.
Yeah.
But look, bro, we love you, I love you, and I need you here in Orchard Park.
Dion Dawkins, he's on board. Myles Garrett. There are Myles Garrett next team odds. If you follow Joe Ostrowski, our Thursday guest, he posted them earlier today. There are two teams with shorter odds, meaning more likely by this, to land Myles Garrett than the Bills, who are tied with the Browns, by the way. That's something.
I saw that, right? Yeah.
You have the same odds of having him on your team as the team he's on. So that's something, because they have the lead.
Right.
They have control over the situation.
Yeah.
But Washington and Philadelphia, no surprise that these teams would be 1-2, I think. They both, though, are teams that draft late. So they're not teams where, like a San Francisco, I don't really think this, but a team like San Francisco, which has been good for a long time but had a bad year and drafts early, sort of as a fluke, they would be a team, theoretically,
they jumped
that I'd be
out
worried
at me.
about.
They jumped out at me in the draft order.
Right, because
when I looked, because
you could see them as a contender.
Sure. Yeah, like it would not be weird for Myles Garrett to view them similarly to the Bills or the Lions or like any contending team, because that's what they have been for the majority of the last few years.
They're probably not a good example because, like in short anyway, like they have a lot of money challenges to figure out what to do with Purdy, like Bosa. Like they've got big money guys and they're kind of on the old side. So maybe that's not perfect. But yeah, like these teams at the top, those are the last four picks. The Bills and the Chiefs will draft next to each other. That ought to be fun. There shouldn't be any trading when you're 30 and 31, right? There shouldn't be really no need to move one spot unless we just want to keep the bit going.
Yeah.
Trade with them. Yeah, we're still not worried about you. We'll trade down one spot. Who do you want? Fine. So 30 and 31. Washington 29, I guess, and Philadelphia 32. I think you're at, priority one is get this player. And to do it, there goes your first round pick. There goes maybe another first round pick in the future, and who knows what else. Like it's like that if you want to do this. But regardless, I feel like you're on offense in the draft.
Well, I have been. That was really the point of yesterday, and my reaction to the Super Bowl, which maybe is a very collectively common experience, is instead of just thinking about how do I outscore you, like you can be disrupted, you can be stopped. Kansas City, we just saw it. Now, I don't think the Bills are going to be able to pull that off in one off season. But a player like Garrett would really move the meter. And then I think, I don't know. This has time to evolve. If I could land Myles Garrett, then maybe my next, I'm not going to have my first round pick and probably one of my seconds, right? So my first pick is going to be Friday night at some point. And I could see going offense then if I land Garrett. Like if I land Garrett and I spend 3 premium draft assets to make it happen. Or, ideally for me, 2 premium draft assets on a player like Gregory Rousseau. Either way, I'm giving up my first and probably a second this year. Then I think I'll be thinking about offense after that. But I don't have to be right about that. But Garrett would answer so much. Like I would be tempted to acquire him and run everything else that I've got back and see what happens.
No draft.
I don't think that they will do that. They will obviously draft some players. They will also sign other players. I think interior defensive line deserves some attention. I think they need pretty badly maybe a Daquan Jones replacement. I don't think Ed Oliver's going anywhere. So I think I need a new big guy next to Ed Oliver.
What happened to Carter?
It's weird that he just became inactive. Before he got hurt, maybe he's a victim of the same thing that happened to Coleman, but Coleman still got a uniform. But Carter, I thought, was coming on when he got hurt, and he just never was really heard from again, I think, after he got hurt. But he was showing some promise. I don't remember now. It might have even been games they lost that he showed well, like maybe the Baltimore game. I remember him doing a couple things and thinking, like, okay, like this game went very badly, but... Or maybe it was the Houston game. One of the losses, I think, I remember him standing out. And then I don't remember the timing of the injury, but he just never was heard from again. So that's a third-round pick. I mean, you shouldn't be expecting, Pro Bowl necessarily, but you're drafting a guy to be a part of your rotation there. So he's someone that you should not be just counting out. But I think despite his presence, I still need more.
He's the worthy trade.
Right.
He's the extra player you got. You moved up 2 rounds, significant. Not in the first round, but still. Worthy of mention. No pun intended.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
So the Garrett sweepstakes or any established, Max Crosby, even in free agency, Khalil Mack, if you want. These are all, to varying degrees, ideas that I think have some appeal. One's better than the other. Obviously, Garrett, to me, outranks Crosby, who outranks Khalil Mack. But you're paying premium assets for either of the first two, and you're just spending money on Khalil Mack. But, you got to be worried about a cliff there, and that could be a little scary. But if they get one of those guys, then I'm the urgency to add defense gets lessened. I'm not saying you're done, but it gets lessened. If you don't, if someone outbids you on Garrett, you really want him. Crosby doesn't get moved, and maybe all you do is sign Mack. I'll be thinking about another playmaker for the defense if I have my 30th pick. I love this safety from South Carolina. Like if he's around there and he's, I'm not seeing him go anywhere before 20, and a couple of drafts I've seen, mocks have him still there for the Bills. Amanawari is his name. Big dude, 6'3", 227. I mean, that is bigger than the Bills linebackers. Like, to me, he's a tool that could be used in a lot of different ways.
Hayden Winks from Underdog, he's really bright. I really like Hayden Winks. Great content. He's got a first-round mock where Nick Emenwari, am I close?
Yeah.
Goes to the Bills at 30. One pick after Luther Burden, receiver from Missouri, goes to Washington. If that happened, if that night is this mock draft, and we're at 29, and it's your safety, for now, let's just say it's your safety.
My safety.
And Luther Burden, what is Twitter doing?
Losing their minds.
Because it could be, what's that, the second best receiver, arguably the second best receiver in the draft?
Yeah, most mocks I'm seeing don't have more than 3 first-rounders.
Matthew Golden as well, and the number one guy is McMillan from Arizona. That's everybody's number one guy.
Yeah.
Tet McMillan. So Twitter is losing its mind. If Washington is on the clock at 29, Luther Burden is on the board. There really is nothing, you said this too, at receiver in free agency that I care about, really. It's old. It's free agency.
Yeah.
But it's Cooper and Diggs and Hopkins.
Hopkins is retiring.
Not necessarily. He says he's not.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he says he's not.
All right. All I saw today was he's announced he's retiring, or somebody says he's retiring. But
I saw that from a fake account.
Oh, I got had then.
Maybe.
I didn't dig in on it.
But that's free agency. Kind of is. Yeah. I mean, yes, Robert Woods is on the list, right? It's Godwin is a big one, big fish. Mm-hmm. I love Godwin.
T. Higgins,
of course, Higgins,
right? Yeah. And I don't think I'm in the market. I don't think I'm doing either of those guys.
I don't want to do any of it.
Right.
So I do want another receiver from this draft.
Mm-hmm.
At some point that's credible. We'll hear about how Shakir was a day 3 pick and how Davis was even a day 3 pick. But still, you don't like Hollywood Brown, so I'm not even going to try. Keenan Allen, Brandon Cooks. I mean, these guys are ancient.
You could work a little harder on Hollywood Brown. Just so you know. I'm open to being wrong about everything.
Yes.
I've I've established that over the years. So
You can go back to Sherfield and Hardy and that crowd too. Sherfield was all right. They both were all right. But
What?
not difference making. They both were all right.
they
all
were
right.
guys.
They were guys.
They were
Yeah,
guys.
they were guys that
Yeah,
were all right.
I mean, I'm not mad at them, but they weren't really useful or helpful.
No, but that's the point. The point isn't not to find useful or helpful.
Right.
But you're not shopping in the finest stores here.
Right.
And the Bills, who would expect them to be? There's no reason to expect them to be. They won a lot of games this way. So I think Hollins and somebody like him, and maybe a kid. And I think round 2 will be really interesting for receiver, if not round 1. And they have the 2 picks. They're just not that good there. That's it. Mm-hmm. And you do need help on defense, but offense is always the thing that's going to get you there, as it has for the last few years. Defense has been good too. And that's, to me, I'd be Team Luther Burden. I'd be losing my mind, I guess, maybe too. Due respect to your safety. Nick Emenwari. I don't even know that much about Luther Burden. I just know top receiver, right?
Right.
That's it.
And again,
there's also Igbuka in this mock draft,
right,
from Ohio State.
Right. So I said, CBS Sports has him ranked the 32nd best player in the draft, and he's the 3rd receiver on the board, according to them. That's his one ranking. But yeah, McMillan and Burden are ahead of him, and then Igbuka, right? But I
just don't think they'll do it. I don't think MVP voters will give Lamar Jackson 3 in a row, or 3 total, with Allen and Mahomes in the league. I don't think they'll do that. And I don't think Brandon Beane will pick a pass catcher with his first draft pick 3 years in a row.
Right.
That's it. Nobody beats Vitas Gerulaitis 17 times in a row. Who drafts pass catchers 3 years in a row? First pick. Does anybody do that? Matt Millen might have done that. With high picks.
With like the 4th pick.
Yes.
Right. That's right.
Yeah, but offense was really good. We did this twice in a row. We're going to the defensive side of the ball this time. I would bet solidly on that. Otherwise, it's a lineman. It's not a quarterback. It's not a running back. Otherwise, it's a lineman, and their line was really good and on the field constantly.
And the draft is supposed to be, holy cow! What did I see today? Another one of these draft guys I'm following on Twitter. 24 starter grades, not first round grades necessarily, but 24 starter grades on defensive linemen. Was it just interior defensive linemen or defensive linemen overall? Forgive me, I'm not sure which. And said last year 12. So it's twice as many guys that at least one of these, people that, for me, he's a dependable follow. Again, I don't remember which one it is, but I'm not following anyone I don't trust. Not that they all agree, but still, I like to have a variety of them. And I saw that today and went like, that'll work for the Bills.
Not just first round picks, but
not starting
caliber.
Right.
We've got Sal coming up at 4:30, Ross Tucker at 5, Paul Hamilton at 6, 803-0550 for your calls. Diving into the offseason once again. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
More of Schopp and the Bulldog.
Coming at you. Orleans, coming at you.
Coming at you.
My dog, random, my dog loves lettuce, won't eat spinach. What's the difference? Why would that be? Lettuce, give it to me.
Texture, smell, I don't know, that's weird. I dropped a piece of
Probably
lettuce
smell.
today making lunch, and Fred walked over to it and, like, look, did the thing and just looked at me and then walked away. I'm like, yeah, I didn't think you'd go for the lettuce. He's not a fan of the vegetables.
What's the weirdest thing he does? He spends the whole day up there with you yesterday, right? Like,
he's in and out. My wife worked overnight Sunday night, so
he's in and out.
So she was asleep. When she's asleep, or during the day like that, he alternates. So like he'll go and like sleep. He loves to just lay down next to you, and so he also will come and see me. I think he likes when I'm up there.
I could hear him. He shakes. Is it his tag or something that I hear?
When he got up his shots updated last summer. I didn't take the old tag off, so he's got 2 tags on, so now he jingles a little bit.
I see.
When he moves around.
What's the weirdest thing he does?
The weirdest thing he does?
You can think about it if you want.
The weirdest thing he does is when I'm sitting in the living room watching TV. This happens most nights. He grabs one of his toys. As he's getting older, it's less and less. It's a shorter duration, but he grabs a toy and wants me to throw it into the dining room from where I'm sitting, and he runs and gets it and slides on the hardwood floors and comes running back. But every time I throw the toy, it usually ends up, in the dining room near where there's a doorway to the kitchen. And if you watch him, like he runs over there, scrambles. Sometimes he falls and slides into some furniture or whatever, picks up his toy, and then stares in the kitchen for 10 seconds. And then comes back. But it's like, and I my theory is he's like, did anybody drop any food in there?
Yeah.
Nope. Okay, clear. Then he comes back, and then 10 seconds later, he will do the exact damn same thing. Like, scramble, there's all this, blah, 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 and then he doesn't come running right back as I look, and he's standing there staring in the kitchen.
Oh, my gosh. The only way to get Margot, an 18-pound pug, to basically sit still, unless she's falling asleep, is to be eating.
Otherwise, she's
running around.
Yeah.
But if I have chili, I made chili for work today for the contest. If I make chili, like today for lunch, sitting there, she will sit right there to my left. She'll move to the right every once in a while, then back to the left. Just make sure I know she's right there. Don't forget about me. And my wife does not have this with her. She does not sit with her for some reason when she's eating. But with me at the table, same spot every time, there she is, right there. Just,
It's because she knows your wife won't give in and give her any of the food.
That might be the difference.
Kind of
I usually give her the smallest something from the bowl.
Yeah.
Not hardly anything. You wouldn't even consider it eating. But it is. It's not the weirdest thing she does, though.
Yeah.
That is, she goes to the bathroom with us.
Okay.
She wants to be in the bathroom.
In the bathroom while you're in the bathroom.
She seems like obsessed with sort of where does it go? Like when you start, she sticks her head behind the toilet, wondering like where is it? Mm-hmm. And then when I'm wrapping up, she comes around behind me and stands with her paws up on the toilet to my left for the flush. The handle is on the left, of course, and then she barks.
Wow.
Or cheers, depending on how you look at it.
Could be cheering. Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, that's her weirdest thing, I think.
I don't know if this. I've never said anything about Fred doing this, and maybe it's not weird at all that he does it. I'm just realizing, and maybe this isn't weird either, but it's it's adorable anyway. I do push-ups every day. I do 3 sets of 40 push-ups. And one of the best things about doing that is, other than actually like building upper body strength, is it makes me stretch. Like after I do the push-ups, I'm down there, so I do like this I stretch out on my knees with my arms way out in front of me. If Fred is in the room when I start doing the push-ups, he will wait until I'm done, and when I do that stretch, he does the same thing. Like right in front of me, he will do it's he does that regardless of whether I'm doing push-ups. It's a stretch it's not uncommon for him to do, but I love when he does it when I'm doing it. I feel like he's exercising with me.
It's good. That's good. That makes sense. At least. Unlike whatever that other thing is. Like, all right, it's really not that interesting.
Yeah.
My line every time, I just love to say it. Go time is showtime. Let's go, Margot. Go time is showtime. Right there. She beats me to the room.
Yeah. Fred wanders into the bathroom when I'm in the shower sometimes, and I think, like, you want to take a bath? You want to take a shower with, no. But that's the only time he really comes in there.
I don't think I could do that.
Yeah.
I don't need the dog in the shower with me. I don't think I could do that. The bird comes into the shower. That's exciting. Anyway, let's get back to sports. Right, everyone? 803-0550. What do you think you're going to want from this draft coming up in like 2.5 months? Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. Sal, Ross Tucker, Paul Hamilton, all ahead today on WGR.
Caller.
Coaching position in the NFL has been filled. The New Orleans Saints are officially hiring Eagles offense coordinator Kellen Moore. 36-year-old has had quick stops the past 2 seasons, spending 2023 as the Chargers offensive coordinator before winning the Super Bowl this year as the Eagles OC. And reports are already beginning to come in on who will be on Moore's staff. Former Chargers head coach Brandon Staley appears to be the front runner to fill the Saints defensive coordinator job. And then Bills director of player personnel Terrence Gray is continuing to interview for open general managing positions, as multiple reports have him interviewing with the Jaguars as early as tomorrow. Gray had 2 interviews with the Titans before the organization ultimately went with Mike Borgonzi. And staying with football, Sal Capaccio, he's going to join the show in just about a half hour at 4:30. And he's also begun his State of the Bills series over on our website, WGR550.com. And the first position up is the wide receivers. In college football, UB has agreed to a new contract with head coach Pete Lembo. It's going to keep him with the program until 2029. And Pete Thamel of ESPN reports the new contract also includes a significant increase in resources for assistant coaches and the staff. And in just his first year on the job, Lembo went 9-4, 6-2 in the conference, won a bowl game, and beat a ranked opponent for just the second time in school history. UB men also in action tonight in college hoops. They take on Northern Illinois at 7. That game's going to be on our sister station, The Bet, 15-20. And then over in hockey, the Four Nations face-off will begin tomorrow night with Canada and Sweden. And today, Canadian head coach John Cooper confirmed that Jordan Binnington will start in net. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of business. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
A second grader and an adult is a good matchup in Connect Four. That's why I'm saying that now. Maybe because I lost to a kid who's 7.
It's Mike Schopp.
This kid, and I beat him one time, and then we played, and it wasn't like I was just sitting there all day staring at the board, right? I mean, there's no excuse, though. There's no excuse for losing to a 7-year-old at Connect Four.
And the Bulldog.
He had me 3 different ways at the end, and twice he missed the winning play.
Yeah.
And then a third time, he had another, 3 turns in a row, he had a winning play. And how bad a job is that for me? How bad a job is it in Connect 4?
You had 3 match points in Connect 4?
He had 3 match points.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
The second time, I'm like, I'm surprised you didn't see that. And I'm sort of giving it to him. And then I make my play, and they're like, oh, he's got another one. I didn't see that at all.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
Just hearing the name Kellen Moore, 36. Man, it seems like he's been coaching a long time. I mean, 4 or 5 years at least. 36. And I remembered that he started for Dallas quarterback at the Bills in their home game against Dallas previous to this one in 2023. So 2015 would have been that game. It's his first NFL start. I think he only had 2 the next week. Dak was hurt, down year for Dallas. Has that ever happened again? So I started to think, just during the update, who would be the toughest trivia question currently for another franchise's last starting quarterback at the Bills? Right? Mm-hmm. So Dallas, it is now Prescott.
Right, because he started the game year before last.
Who's Washington? Oh, what did I just do? Okay.
When were they last here?
They played the extra game in 21. The Bills won big.
Is that Heineke?
I think so. Yes.
Okay.
Good. That's not easy. That's a tougher one.
All right.
Right?
Yeah, I think so.
I might have guessed
pat
Fitzpatrick.
myself on the back, but yeah. All right.
I might have guessed Ryan Fitzpatrick, but it's too recent. 2021.
Yeah.
There was a big dump-off pass to Antonio Gibson, who went 80 in that game for Washington. Philly?
Has Philly been here since that Wentz game?
I don't think so.
Then it's Wentz. It was a windy day, and they won by 2 touchdowns over the Bills, if I remember correctly.
31-13.
All right.
Wentz didn't do a lot. Leading receiver Alshon Jeffrey. So that's 2019, right?
I remember that day
2019.
being one of the days where I walked out of the press box where we were doing post game, and it was so windy that, and I believe the game was played in similar conditions. I mean, this is 5 hours after the kickoff of the game, so I mean, of course, it could have changed, but it was set. Was sitting there watching all day. Like, boy, it's really windy. Walked out. I'm like, how in the world would you throw a football in this? Is what I thought that day. So, not surprised to hear he had modest stats. I don't think anyone really did much, even though they scored 31 points that day.
So Dallas's last visiting team's starting quarterback in a game at the Bills. Prescott, Heineke, Wentz. Giants would be Tyrod Taylor.
Right, that game last year.
That's a tougher one.
Yeah.
It's recent.
Yeah.
But, like, who thinks of Tyrod Taylor playing for the Giants?
Really nobody. Right.
NFC West is pretty recent.
That was,
Purdy.
right.
Kyler Murray.
Kyler Murray this year in the opener. Right.
Russ in 2020. And Goff that year. Remember that high-scoring COVID year?
That would have been Goff. Yeah.
That would have been Goff.
Yeah, that's right. 21 is Stafford there, and they win the Super Bowl, and the Bills open there in 22, right? That's how that went?
Yes.
Okay. So, yeah, then Goff was that game.
Leading receiver, Cooper Kupp. That's fun, too. Receiver's fun, too. All right. That's half the NFC. NFC, who's tougher, North or South? North is more recent. South is next year. So, Bears. Trubisky.
Yeah.
Doesn't he start that blowout for them? Isn't that the last time the Bears were here?
I cannot remember the last time the Bears were here.
The game where Peterman tried to score from the 50 on a Hail Mary to end the half, tried to run it in.
That was a Bears game?
That was a Bears game.
Okay.
2018, 41-9.
I'm taking your word for it.
Is that Peterman or Anderson? Peterman against Trubisky.
Okay.
Leading receiver, Anthony Miller. Trubisky is the last Bears quarterback to start a game here. And that's going until next year. Detroit would have to be Stafford. He's played for years.
I suppose, unless he was hurt or something and missed a game, but I don't remember that. Could that be?
That could be. Late in I think he... No. It is Stafford. Oh. I had Sean Hill vibes.
Sean Hill played a game for them, I think, that I remember you not being here for some reason or another.
I was sick that day.
You were sick.
I was off this day, too. I have not been here for a long time for a Lions at Bills game.
Okay.
Maybe ever.
But I remember a Sean Hill game because he put up big numbers, and it was one of those, it's the drought. People are like, Sean Hill looks pretty good. I'm like, shut up. It's like, why am I even here talking to you? This is terrible. Our lives are a disaster. I can't stand this anymore. No, Sean Hill is not a good idea for the Bills next year.
Sean Hill.
Thanks for calling, though.
Yeah, we appreciate the call. This Lions game with Stafford, 14-13, late in the season, I was here and I took ill during the game and left.
Okay.
And I think it's this game. Maybe it is the other one. No, I was off. It's the Sean Hill game. I left the station because we didn't have the rights yet.
Right.
It's that long ago.
Yeah.
I left the station during the game because I was sick. And our boss on Monday came in. He's like, you should have let me know. I'm like, you're right. I didn't let him know that I just was leaving. And he was upset about that. He had every reason to be. All right, so Stafford, Green Bay is Rodgers. Night game.
Sure. Right.
Minnesota. Oh. Cousins.
Yeah. Well, oh, God, yeah.
Jefferson.
Oh, that game.
How many of these guys are still on their teams?
Stupidest games.
Nobody in that division is still on the team. I mean, it is supposed to be 8 years between, except for these new 17th game ones.
Yeah.
It is supposed to be 8 years between visits. And you can get, with Seattle there for a long time, it was Toronto. Was in the middle. It was a long time between Seattle visits because of Toronto. So those two. All right, let's wrap it up. NFC South, Atlanta. Oh, wait a minute. Is that tough? Late season, like 3 years ago.
It still would have been Matt Ryan, I think. 3 years ago?
Pitts played and he got hurt.
I think that's got to be Matt Ryan still. Is this the 22 season?
It is Matt Ryan. 21 season.
21 season, sorry.
January of 22. It is Matt Ryan. I don't think I would have thought that.
Right, because he went to Indy for just that 1 year. Almost every time I saw him play for them, he looked like he was going to quit the sport at halftime when he was with the Colts. It just did not look like it was going well or he was having any kind of a good time whatsoever. And then he retired.
Who starts for Carolina? Isn't it like the week before? Would that still be Newton? No, definitely not. Newton's on New England in the COVID year. This is the year after.
Right.
That is a tough one. They've been through so many guys. Mayfield, Darnold, Dalton. We're not to Bryce Young yet.
This is 21 still we're talking about here?
It's Cam.
It is Newton.
He went back there.
Right.
Oh, I forgot that.
Yeah, it took me a minute, but I'm now looking at the schedule. The Atlanta game and the Carolina game sandwiched a New England game.
Okay.
On the
So
road.
it is Cam Newton.
Yeah.
He went back there for a year, and then that was it. Okay. These are some tough ones. Saints?
Saints, that same season.
No, they were away.
Oh, that was okay. Yeah. Right. Sorry.
Trey White, Thanksgiving.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and they were at Tampa that year too.
The last Saints game is the blowout here.
And that's still Breeze.
In 7th, is it? Probably.
Gotta be. That's that's that same year with the Bears game, so that's 18, right?
No, it's
the year before that. Oh yeah, that's
different
right.
division.
Yeah, that's right. It's McDermott's first year. No Allen.
17. The Saints destroyed the Bills.
47-10. I'm looking at. Do you want me to look at the? I think it's Breeze. I can tell you in a second.
Probably has to be.
It is Breeze. Yeah.
What are his stats? It's all rushing.
16 or 18, I can't read it, for 25 for 104 yards.
What's Kamara?
Excuse me, 154 yards. 18 for 25, 154. Ingram, 131 yards and 3 touchdowns on 21 carries. That's Ingram. So I'm not looking at the box. Those are just the leaders for the game. Let me get the box for you, and I'll get you Kamara if you want. 12 for one. Oh my gosh. So Ingram goes 21 for 131 and 3 scores. Kamara goes 12 for 105 and a touchdown.
Yeah.
Trey Edmonds, 9 for 48 and a score as well.
Yeah.
It was a demolition. 298 yards on the ground for the Saints.
And they go to Peterman the next week in L.A., or was it San Diego?
Peterman came in this game. Like Taylor and Peterman both played in this Saint game. And
that's the benching.
Yep.
And then they go to is it San Diego or L.A.? They go to L.A. It's at soccer
stadium. They go to the
stadium.
Chargers and play at the soccer stadium. That's right.
That's Peterman. Then they go to Kansas City and win.
Right, with Taylor back in. Right.
Wow, the memories. All right, so our last NFC team is Tampa. Last starting quarterback at the Bills for Tampa is just like...
That's last year. It's Mayfield.
It's Mayfield. Again, the extra game, or else it would have been Jameis.
Right.
The O.J. Howard game.
Right. I love that we have an O.J. Howard game.
We do.
It's just you and I have it. I don't think anybody else calls it that, but that's fine.
One-timer. One-time guest to our show, O.J. Howard. Has been on exactly once.
Yep.
All right, is there an AFC one that's tough? Colts. Wentz. How many guys are on this list twice? Wentz is on this list twice.
Right, he's the Jonathan Taylor game?
He is the quarterback for the Jonathan Taylor game, I think. I'm pretty sure.
That has to be right. I'm looking to make sure, but yes, he is.
I think Houston would be Davis Mills. 40-0.
Yeah, that's that same season, and I'll make sure that you're right, and you're right.
Jacksonville is Lawrence. Tennessee is Levis.
11 for 21, 87 yards, Davis Mills against the Bills in that game.
Tennessee is going to be Mason Rudolph this year.
Right, we didn't get Levis this year.
I think that was Mason Rudolph. Last Steelers quarterback at Buffalo is Mason Rudolph in the playoffs.
Right.
We're positive?
Oh, yeah. They haven't been here since that wild. They didn't.
No, but he definitely starts that game?
Oh, yeah. The wild. Yes. He played. He started.
All right, so if you count playoffs, he's got 2. Mm-hmm. How about this? Just so it's in case it's not obvious. I love this stuff. This is the stuff.
Right.
All right.
Are there more teams? Can we keep going?
We're almost done. Yes, we're not done. Mahomes, Herbert. Herbert's here in the COVID year. High-scoring game. Hit a Hail Mary late, short of the end zone.
Yeah, okay. For some reason, they're two teams from L.A. I mix up those games. It's hard for me to remember that the Rams and the Chargers were here in the same year. Just seems weird to me.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Mahomes, Herbert. Oh. Raiders is good. Last Raiders quarterback here is week, I think I know it, week 3 or 4, 23. So you've lost to the Jets on the Monday night. It's week 2. It's the home opener. It's the next week. It's week 2 of 23. And I think that means it's Garoppolo.
You are correct.
Garoppolo for the Raiders. That's kind of weird too, is it? Is he like? Do you think of? Where do you think of him? He's a Niner.
He's a Niner. Yeah, I don't think of him on the Raiders at all.
No. They weren't here. Sort of panicking. No, they weren't here this year.
No,
that's their last meeting. They didn't play the Raiders this year. All right, Garoppolo, and then Denver would be Knicks.
Right.
Regular season Denver would be. It could be tough.
Regular season Denver was Russ.
Yes, the night game.
Right.
Oh.
That moonball touchdown to Sutton.
It's 2 for Russ if we're counting regular season only. It's 2 for Rudolph if we're counting playoffs. And the other wouldn't be 2. Because Denver would be Knicks and Pittsburgh would be someone else. Ben.
If you're not counting playoffs. Right.
Right?
Yeah, that's the opener in 20.
No, who is the quarterback for the blowout where Allen throws the touchdown from his back?
Oh, what's his name? Pickett.
Kenny Pickett.
Pickett, yeah, because I liked him.
I didn't get there.
I liked him. I liked Kenny Pickett that day.
That's right, you did. First start.
Does it sound weird? Yeah. They lost by 100, but I thought he showed some promise.
That was so us for 15 years. For 15 years we did that. Oh,
I think he can do it. I mean, I know he barely completed any of his passes, but he looked good.
I think I see a little Steve Young in this guy.
Right.
I remember getting that call, actually. I can't take credit for that. Someone called us on that one. With that one, I see a little Steve Young. How do you know? You never played. All right. So we just have AFC East left?
Right, and that's
Tua.
That shouldn't be hard, right?
It is Tua.
Tua, yeah.
This year.
Yeah, he was back. Rodgers and Drake May, right.
May started the game late in the year. Rodgers. What a game that is. The December Jet game where it's 40-0. I mean, there was a safety, it's picks.
Yep.
Like, it's just a complete beatdown. They put Taylor in. Boom, boom, touchdown.
I was off that day, and if I hadn't been, I was off, so I had a few beers during the game. I really was wrestling with just going upstairs and turning the gear on to join you for postgame because I had such a good time watching Rodgers circling the drain. It was for a game that, there wasn't a ton of urgency for the Bills, but it just felt so good to recreationally just sit there and watch him burn. I really enjoyed it.
And I'm in here, Mr. Jet.
Right.
Hosting the post-game show after that debacle. All right, so the original question on the heels of Kellen Moore coming up as the new coach of the Saints, started here for Dallas. It's not the most recent Dallas visit anymore. Prescott started this game in 23. But the question was, who's the toughest of these all to get right? Who was the hardest one?
I think Newton.
I kind of think so too.
It is very hard. When you said he's on New England for the COVID year, I'm like, oh, it can't be him.
Can't be him.
I just completely forgot that he went back to Carolina. And I'll bet a lot of football fans would be the same way.
But you could luck into Newton because who were we going to think of that wasn't Cam Newton?
Right. You might just get him even ignoring the fact that he went to New England in between.
Who else is it going to be? If you remember the game at all, Like, who could it? McCaffrey's in that game, isn't he? Like, for Carolina? Who is it going to be? You could luck into Newton is all. You could just, like, I guess it could Cam Newton, like that, and be right. McCaffrey is not in that game, so never mind that. That's a tough one. Davis Mills maybe is a little tough. Tyrod for the Giants could be forgotten.
And where we started, Heineke was not
Heineke's good.
real easy, but he did play a lot for them, and they made the playoffs even. So I don't think that's that hard. You gave me more credit than I think I deserved there.
Garoppolo's
a tough one. I'm not even sure. I looked at the box score. I'm not even sure it's right. I can't be sure that he actually played that day for the Raiders or ever for the Raiders.
Well,
I want to live in a world
can't
where
always
he never
believe what
played
you
for
read.
the Raiders.
You can't always believe what you read. Rams is Goff is not that hard. Stafford, you luck into Stafford with Detroit. Had to be Stafford. I don't remember the game at all. Had to be Stafford. You luck into that. Trubisky is good.
Yeah.
Those are the tough ones.
Yeah.
All right. Enjoy dinner with the family tonight.
It is really
Housing these
helpful if you
around.
could remember these games actually happening. Like, I just don't remember this Trubisky game with the Bears.
That's
at all.
amazing to me. That's amazing to me.
I just
I'm
don't
sure we were
remember
there.
it. Yeah, I know. I don't remember it at all.
Don't you remember finding it hysterical that Peterman...
Yes, I remember that play. In my head, it's like they're playing the team from the longest yard. I just don't remember it being the Bears at all. I just don't.
I wonder if I could think of something that would trigger it for you. Jeez, this game was just gross. 2018, right? Yeah. 41-9. What a score. Bills' leading receiver, Logan Thomas.
Wow.
7 for 40. Respectable.
Respectable if that's a guy on your team and not the leading receiver in the game.
Terrell Pryor caught 2 passes for the Bills in that game.
All right.
Isn't this the best?
Just no.
This is what the offseason is all about.
We dropped into like a Sabres rando rabbit hole here is what is happening. Terrell Pryor.
Terrell Pryor is right. Yes, Terrell Pryor. Oh, baby. I'm down to the defensive names. I can't stop. I can't quit.
Sal's got something. I'll save it. He texted me. I don't know if he texted you the same thing, but something about Matt Ryan.
Starting DBs for the Bills in this game. Jordan Poyer, right under it says Raphael Bush, and I read Rachel Bush.
What just happened?
Starting defensive back for the Bills in that Bears game was a player named Raphael Bush.
You saw
it was right under the name Jordan Poyer, and I saw Rachel Bush. On that note, Sal Capaccio coming up next here on WGR.
We know you can't hear every
The final head coaching opening in the NFL has been filled. The New Orleans Saints going with Eagles offensive coordinator Kellen Moore. The 36-year-old has had some quick stops the last 2 seasons, spending 2023 as the Chargers offensive coordinator before winning the Super Bowl this year as the Eagles OC. And reports are already beginning to start to point to who could fill out Moore's staff. Former Chargers head coach Brandon Staley appears to be the front runner for the defensive coordinator position. Bills Director of Player Personnel Terrence Gray continuing to interview for open general manager positions. Multiple reports have him interviewing with the Jaguars as early as tomorrow. Gray did have 2 interviews with the Titans before the organization ultimately went with Mike Borgonzi. And do stay tuned, as Sal Capaccio will join the show next, and also up at our website, WGR550.com. His next chapter in the State of the Bills series. Wide receivers up today, quarterbacks and running backs were before that. Staying with football, but in the college ranks, UB has agreed to a new contract with head coach Pete Lembo. It's going to keep him with the program until 2029. Pete Thamel of ESPN reports the new contract also includes a significant increase in resources for assistant coaches and staff. And in just his first year on the job, Lembo went 9-4 overall, 6-2 in conference, won a bowl game, and beat a ranked opponent for just the second time in school history. And then in hockey, ahead of Canada and Sweden tomorrow night to kick off the Four Nations face-off, Canada head coach John Cooper confirmed Jordan Binnington will start in net. It's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of business. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Welcome back. Sal Capaccio with us on the West Her Hotline. Nice going, I would call it toe-to-toe with Sal today in the soup or bowl, chili bowl cook-off. You know, I thought we both showed well. There were some tough contenders. We don't have Sal yet.
I was waiting.
What
for
is
Sal.
ever Sal not there?
I was waiting for Sal to respond to that. I didn't know Sal was here. I didn't know he was involved in. What did he make? Since he's not here yet, do you know what he made?
Potato soup. I think he made.
Oh.
I liked that. We had 9, I think. Couple people didn't sign up, but cooked.
All right. What, you need to know the field so you know who you're up against ahead of time? Is that what we're going with here?
I do. Here comes Sal.
There we go.
I hope I didn't get it wrong. Potato soup, right?
No. Had a connection issue on my end. Sorry, guys.
Okay. Potato and leek. What did you do today, Sal?
Potato soup, yeah. I mean, it was just actually, I have to be honest, it's really a Yana Capaccio masterpiece, but I helped throw in a few things. So I would have felt really bad winning because it really wasn't my creation, but I wanted to be a part of it, so she helped.
That's good. Were you listening to the last segment?
I loved it. Are you talking about the quarterback?
Yes.
Yeah, and listen, I mean, as you guys were, doing it, I'm remembering being on the field for all these games, and it was awesome, like great memories. I texted Bulldog. The Atlanta Falcons one, there was a weird play with Matt Ryan at the goal line, and he got a penalty or something. I don't know. It was a taunting or something. Him and Jordan Poyer. It was very strange. Shouldn't have been a penalty. I don't know what happened. Maybe he scored a touchdown. They marked him down or something. I remember that one. You go back to...
Do you remember when in the game that was at all? Was it late? I'll, while we're talking here, I'll try to run through the play-by-play and see if I can find what it actually is written up as.
Okay, so the Bills were actually down and came back, and I think that was before the comeback. And I think something happened, so it had to be either like early third quarter, late second quarter, maybe, something like that. So I'm not really sure. It was near the goal line, though. I know that it was a weird play, and I remember like the next year or 2 years later when Ryan got into broadcasting, he came to Buffalo and I actually met him. We talked about it, and he was telling me the story about the whole play and how crazy it was. It was kind of weird. I don't remember everything that happened. It was a weird kind of penalty thing, and I don't know, Jordan Poyer was involved. But I remember that, and then you guys were talking about some of these other games in 2017, and yeah, I'm going through the timeline. Yep, there's the New Orleans Saints game, the next week in L.A., the next week in Kansas City, yep.
Which one was the toughest one for you, if you were listening to us sort of, go just rip them off? I mean, was one of them, like, you would call it the hardest one?
I didn't remember. Did we settle on? Did you guys say who started for Detroit? Was it Stafford?
Stafford.
Yep.
Yeah. You could have lucked into Stafford. You could have lucked into Newton.
Yeah.
But who last visiting quarterback for each franchise at the Bills? I kind of think Tyrod Taylor for the Giants won't be remembered, even though it was recent.
Yeah, no, to be honest with you, I couldn't remember who for the Raiders last year when you said it. Like the most recent, like, wait a minute, who was that? Was that Minshew? And then you're like, oh yeah, Garoppolo. Oh yeah, that's right. That I remember that game.
Yep.
What about did you only do AFC?
Did we do the Browns?
NFC.
We didn't do the Browns. We didn't do the rest of the AFC North after Pittsburgh. We didn't do the rest of the division.
Right.
Wait, did you do Commanders?
We did Commanders
Heineke.
early.
It was Heineke, yeah. That was the first one.
Heineke, that would have been tough for me because I couldn't. I would have said I could not remember who that would have been.
Who is the Browns? Griffin.
It's not.
No, that can't be right.
That could be Johnny Manziel. I mean, that was
No. They were here since Manziel. They're here late. Right. They're here like maybe Rex's last game is against the Browns. Did he get fired after the Browns game or the Steelers game? There's There's late season games that season.
That's right. I think that's Griffin.
He got fired after the Dolphins game when they lost in overtime.
The answer is Robert Griffin III. They played the Browns in Detroit 2 years ago, so that wouldn't count. There, finally we got one of those. Finally we sorry, we skipped the AFC North. No one pointed that out, but yeah, Robert. That's the toughest one. RG3 is the last Cleveland Browns starting quarterback for a game in Orchard Park.
You got to go back so far for it. I found the play you're thinking of, Sal.
Okay.
From this Falcons game, and it isn't. The Bills are ahead by 14 at this point. It's very late in the game. Here it is, 2nd and goal at the Buffalo 7. Matt Ryan scrambles, right tackle, 7 yards, touchdown. Penalty on Matt Ryan for taunting, 15 yards enforced between downs. Replay official reviews the runner breaking the plane ruling, and the play was reversed. Mm-hmm. And so they play. He scrambles right on the redo. Penalty on Ryan. Oh no, it's not the redo. It's just Poyer and Ryan got penalized for taunting. So now it's 3rd and goal at the 16, incomplete, and they turn it over on downs on 4th down. Like they try a 4th down play and it's incomplete. So the penalty shouldn't have cost them the touchdown, but the review took the touchdown off the board, and then the enforcement of the penalty left them in 3rd and 16 at the 16. 3rd and goal at the 16.
And it was like a really cheap, taunting penalty. Like, he was not taunting him, basically.
Yeah.
So, latest at WGR550.com, state of the wide receivers. As you set it up on Twitter, no position may have been more, scrutinized going into the season. How did it go? Here's a simple question with maybe a complicated answer. We'll see. How do you think it went after all that scrutiny?
I actually think it went about the way the team planned it to go. Maybe they would have liked more kind of production, I guess, from certain individuals at certain times, right? That's Amari Cooper when he gets here. That's Keon Coleman throughout the year, especially towards the end. But I think overall it went about how they wanted it to. Everybody eats. There wasn't one guy getting all the targets. And, oh, by the way, your quarterback became the MVP of the league with this group, right? Like, how could you – I don't know if anyone could say that it went, that much worse than what they had thought, other than they did go out and trade for Amari Cooper because they felt they needed more at the position.
Yeah. I wonder if they don't – I mean, obviously it's probably a stupid hypothetical to even bring up, but you mentioning MVP trips a wire for me. The fact that Diggs was gone, I think, helped elevate Allen's MVP candidacy. We thought it as soon as the trade was made, well, not as soon as, but eventually that became a talking point. Like, hey, doing more with less, that could enhance his standing, and maybe that it'll help him get the MVP. They did add Cooper to supplement, but still, he had a very modest output. And so I think that without the Diggs trade, maybe we're not watching Josh Allen up on stage last Thursday.
That's probably right. I think there was a lot of that being said when he was traded, right? We all said, hey, if there's ever a year where Josh could win the MVP, it's got to be this year where people will see he really doesn't have the talents around him. And if he can elevate this group, oh, my gosh, look at this group. If he can get this team to be really good on offense, well, guess what? They scored over 30 points a game. They were the second highest scoring offense in the NFL. he still put up record numbers in a lot of different ways. So, yeah, no doubt that helped him, I think, in a lot. Look, that was the talk, right? When he got towards the MVP race at the end of the year, well, look who Lamar has. Is Derrick Henry's next to him. He's got a Pro Bowl wide receiver. Josh Allen has none of that. So no doubt. But I think overall at the position, I think the Bills probably feel good about how it went for most of the year, where they probably still feel that they need more is explosiveness. And that was something we talked a lot about that they didn't necessarily have. It was why we talked a lot about the trade that they did with Kansas City at the draft last year, and then Worthy goes to Kansas City. And then even more so now, I think 2 weeks ago when we met with Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott and them talking about maybe stretching the field. You guys actually had McDermott on. You asked the question, Mike, I think about that, stretching the field. And, I think that's probably an area where they still feel they're lacking.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, Sal, you might remember, like going back to after the 2020 season, after the loss in the AFC title game to the Chiefs, it was like, I need Tyreek Hill. Like, I need some speed, right? I need something that can, push this thing down the field. And I know the game has changed, the way defenses are playing, but still, I think I said this yesterday, for a contending team overall, like a Super Bowl bona fide contender, the Bills just are not fast. Overall, not just at receiver, like in general, they're just not. Speed is not, a thing, top to bottom on this roster. So I'll still be thinking about that as we move into the offseason, as we're just sort of embarking on this offseason expedition, Sal. How notable, I always circle back to them making the Cooper trade. Yes, everybody eats. We don't need an alpha. We don't need a number one. They played, 6 games or whatever they played and had some trouble in 2 of those games, Baltimore and Houston, their 2 early losses, and pivoted to, okay, let's go get Amari Cooper. I feel like that's a sign that there will be not just, we'll just wait for Keon Coleman to develop and bring back Mac Hollins and, we got these practice squad guys and maybe one of them elevates. I feel like they're going to have to do more. The Cooper move mid-season or earlier than that, to me, symbolizes that they should be looking to do more this offseason.
I agree with that. I would say I really wonder what they feel about how Curtis Samuel's injury impacted him and what he wasn't able to do this year. I think Curtis Samuel was supposed to be a bigger part of the offense. I think they envisioned him to be a bigger part of the offense. They envisioned him to be a guy that would get the ball in his hands, use his speed. He's a fast guy. He's not Xavier Worthy. He's not Tyreek Hill, but he's fast, and he can run down the field. He can run past players, but more notably, he can get the ball in his hands, and he can run around and past players. And I think that was a big blow to them that they didn't have that. And once they got a few weeks into the year, and it was very notable, we were all saying it, the teams were just locking these guys down man-to-man and saying, you're just not beating us with your receivers. You're not separating, and we're going to get pressure Josh Allen by locking down. Brandon Beane talked about at the end of the year, and Tim and McDermott, one or the other, said how much it really was about Amari helping the others on the team and what their roles could be. And I believe that because they didn't use Amari Cooper like they used Stephon Diggs when they traded for him. Right. But what I think they really believed they wanted to get out of him, and whether they did or they didn't, we could debate, was if we put him on the field, people have to know he's on the field, and you just can't go straight across the board locking down all the receivers man-to-man because you have another guy who's a proven veteran here who you have to worry about.
Sal Capaccio's state of the wide receiver position for the Bills up at WGR550.com.
With all that said about Cooper, is there any price point where you would think bringing him back is a good idea, or do you think they need to pivot and do something else?
Sure. I think that if you could get him on a pretty cheap deal, what's that look like? $3-4 million? I just don't know if that would be reasonable for him.
Right.
He just last year, 2023, not this past season, he had 1,200 yards? He had 1,100 the year before that. It's amazing, right? When you look at his numbers, I was looking through it today doing the article, and I'm like, he's 1 year removed from back-to-back 1,100-yard seasons. Like, some team's going to go, dude, I'm going to pay that guy for 1 year.
Right.
So, yeah, I would think, yes, there would be a price. I would even say, $4 or $5 million. What are you paying Curtis Samuel? That's probably what I do, but I don't think you can get up into the double digits.
Right.
I just don't know if you're going to have the same philosophy. You got to have, if you're going to pay him, I think you have to have a bigger plan for him, and I just don't know if those two things would match up.
Right. And with the dearth of quality receivers on the market, it probably would be a surprise, even with a non-productive year here with the Bills, that Cooper doesn't get something more than like 3 years, $40 million somewhere or something. Like I think somebody will pay him, maybe even more than that.
That's right, and I think if I'm thinking of this correctly, it's his first shot at free agency, guys. I think, right? I don't think he's ever been a free agent. He came into the league with the Raiders, gets traded to Dallas, gets traded to the Browns. To me, he's probably gonna. Why wouldn't you say, like, look, I haven't been through this. I want to see what my value holds, and maybe you get that price up there.
We'll see what the tape looks like on him. 2 teams. Sal, thanks for today. Tight ends next later in the week?
Yeah, for sure. Working on that tonight, guys. We'll have tight ends and then wrap up the offense with the offensive line before I head away for the week, and then we'll do defense when we get back.
Thanks for your time.
You got it, guys.
All right, it's our man Sal Capaccio on the West Her Hotline. His appearances are brought to you by New York's only outlet liquor. When you need to stock up, it's the place to buy a case. What's your outlet?
Ross Tucker coming up just after 5, a final visit with Ross for the season. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, WGR. Welcome back. How do you like that we didn't go finish the job there with the AFC North with those quarterbacks? But as it turned out, 3 quarterbacks are 2 teams' last starters for games at the Bills in Orchard Park. Rodgers, Jets and Packers. Wentz, Colts and Eagles. If you count playoffs, Mason Rudolph, Titans and Steelers. Otherwise, it's Pickett for the Steelers. Mm-hmm. And if you count playoffs, it's Knicks for Denver. If you don't, it's Russell Wilson for Denver and Seattle.
He'd be Seattle, too, yeah. Right.
Fun. What's the most money you've ever won betting? Approximately. You don't have to answer that. You don't have to answer that. 4 figures?
Yeah, a couple, yeah.
Ever 6 figures?
No. A couple, $2,000 to $3,000.
Really good.
On like a 5-leg parlay kind of thing. I had a soccer thing last year around this time, like late in the Premier League season. There was like 2 big upsets on the day, and I had them both as part of like a 5-legger, and so I got pretty fortunate there.
Yeah, I'm in the same ballpark. Fantasy 3 or 4 5K wins. Last night, a bettor in Kansas played a 17-leg NBA parlay for $10 and won. Almost $500,000.
Wow. That's amazing.
It still seems like, what level of insanity is 17 legs?
I don't know. Wow.
But you can see it at the Caesars account. $484,223.25 on $10.
Right. Well, my new answer to this, I guess I gotta have to wait until next year at this time. But if all goes well, my new answer to this will be $37,000.
Oh, wow, specific number.
Yeah, because I took my Kick of Destiny $10 bonus, inspired by a listener who sent in a screen grab of what he did with his $10 bonus from FanDuel for Eli Manning winning that contest, and put it on for North American team sports champions for the coming. So Oklahoma City Thunder NBA Finals this year, Dallas Stars Stanley Cup Final this spring, and then World Series, he had the Dodgers and the Bills winning the Super Bowl. I did 3 of the 4 the same. I threw the Mets in. Dodgers were like plus 250. Mets were like plus 1,000. I'm like, whatever. Juan Soto.
Whatever.
Mets.
Throw in some Mets.
So that grew to a $10 bet. If I'm right about all 4 of those outcomes, I will win $37,000.
Interesting specific number. I'll tell you why during the break. Ross Tucker coming up. We'll wrap the season with Ross after the update. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Eagles offense coordinator Kellen Moore, the 36-year-old, has had some pretty quick stops the past 2 seasons, spending 2023 as the Chargers offense coordinator before winning this year's Super Bowl with the Eagles. Reports are also starting to spin on who will be part of Moore's staff. Former Chargers head coach Brandon Staley appears to be the front-runner for the Saints' defensive coordinator position. To college, UB has agreed to a new contract with head coach Pete Lembo. This is going to keep him with the program until 2029. And Pete Thamel of ESPN reports the new contract will also include a significant increase in resources for assistant coach and staff. And in his first year on the job, Lembo went 9-4 overall, 6-2 in the conference, won a bowl game, and beat a ranked opponent for just the second time in school history. UB men are also in action tonight in college hoops. They take on Northern Illinois at 7. That game will be on our sister station, the Bet 1520. And then ahead of tomorrow night's game between Canada and Sweden to get the Four Nations face-off underway, Canada head coach John Cooper confirmed that Jordan Binnington will start in net. It's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of business. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Appearance on WGR is being brought to you by Northwest Bank. For what's
Here he is, the host of the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. You can check him out at Ross Tucker NFL. And, by the way, big fan, one of the leading voices when it comes to myfrontpagestory.com. Ross, welcome back. Our last chat for a while here. How was New Orleans?
Oh, man, it was awesome on multiple levels. You know, had a really good week on Media Row, interviewing all kinds of folks. A lot of those interviews will be on the Ross Tucker Football Podcast in the next few weeks, which is great. I did have a chance at the New Heights party to spend some time with Dion Dawkins. That guy is awesome. I will say this about the Bills, by the way. Like, I already knew Josh Allen was awesome, and I kind of knew Dion was awesome. They have a lot of really, really good guys, which just makes me want them to win next year's Super Bowl even more now. You know, like they're awesome guys in every way, and they deserve it. So hopefully they can give it a run next year. But yeah, it was awesome on Radio Row. Came home Friday, went to my sister-in-law's 40th birthday party, and then flew back with the fam Sunday because that's what my daughter won 30 games a year, at least, right? Over 30. So I never get to just be like a dad or a fan. So just to sit there, and by the way, having an 11-year-old girl on one side and a 13-year-old girl on the other side, way better than sitting next to Bulldog, like way better. And so it was awesome. Everything about it was awesome.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I saw the video of the girls dancing. Was that pre-game festivities? Is that what that was? Usually, like, I don't really know what this is, but they're excited, so I'm happy. Something like that, I think I saw.
That was the day before the game. That's like the Eagles theme song, I guess. So I don't follow stuff like that. So I guess the guy's name is Gilly the Kid, and it's called Blow the Whistle or Blow the Whistle. I'm not sure, but the week I was away at the Super Bowl, evidently, or at Media Row, evidently my wife and daughters worked on that dance a lot, and they were very excited to show me on Saturday, and they did a wonderful job with it, and it went viral, and I guess that's great. I'm happy for them.
Middle-aged dudes like us are going to struggle all the time with the or duh. Like you just can't really get there.
You're not expected to know.
Yeah, it's a tough one for us to actually get out of our mouths.
You're not expected to say it.
Just to generalize.
Even if you do know.
Right.
I see. What a great city for the Super Bowl, though. We so wanted to go. The restaurant scene and everything like that.
Should be there every year.
Yeah, right?
Should be there every year because you can walk to everything. I mean, that's the key in my mind, the ability to be able to walk everywhere. So from Media Row to the restaurants to the stadium to the parties, I mean, that you just can't beat that. Interestingly, I did not see any Bills fans down there, but I did see, I'd say maybe a dozen or two Lions fans that I think had maybe booked the trip and they weren't going to turn back now, I guess. Because I only saw Eagles, mainly Eagles, some Chiefs, a few Saints, and then a couple dozen Lions fans. Well, there are also at least a dozen people wearing referees gear that had the Chiefs emblem on it, but those were Eagles fans.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. I guess that's dead now, right? I don't know. The fix being in, I mean, I don't know. The Chiefs got smoked. The game itself, Ross, I mean, I mostly will look at a Bills season, the last two in particular, losing to the Chiefs by a field goal in the playoffs, and say, well, my quarterback had the ball in his hands at the 2-minute warning or thereabouts, right? Touchdown wins the game. Man, I'll take that outcome every day. I'm going to expect to win my fair share of those. And it's not like there's 20 failures here. It's 2 in a row, and they sting, of course. But it's sort of... It sounds like, and it really is me kind of letting the defense off the hook. They're really good over there. I got to outscore them, so Josh, go do the thing. And watching the Super Bowl just kind of spun my head around to go like, okay, you can get to him. You can disrupt him. You can stop him. You can do better than the Bills have been doing against them in the playoffs. Man, what a masterclass by the Eagles, Ross.
It really was. The key to that is that you have supreme confidence that your front four can get there and can win, right? The Eagles, I mean, people ask me, like, when I knew the Eagles had it for sure. I think at halftime in the stadium, they have the next-gen stats up, and the Eagles had 5 sacks and 11 quarterback pressures, and they had not blitzed once. In fact, they did not blitz the entire game.
Right.
And so I've said it before, I'll say it again. After quarterback, the most important position is defensive line because that sets up everything. And offensive line is really important, but you can win with an average offensive line. They just can't be below average. I don't believe you can win with an average defensive line. I think you need some legit horses up front, and the Eagles have a bunch of them, and this year was the anomaly with them taking corners in the first 2 rounds, but that's partially because every other pick they take in the first couple rounds is usually O-line or D-line. Even when you look at it and you're like, well, wait a minute, why are they taking Cam Jurgens to play center? They already have Jason Kelsey. He waits the first year, doesn't play at all. Second year, he plays right guard. Third year, he plays center, and now they'll give him a huge contract because he's a very good center. Landon Dickerson, same thing. Even Nolan Smith, late first-round pick, the end, did not play as a rookie. Wasn't even playing that much earlier this year. And then I think he might have, at least going into the Super Bowl, he was leading the NFL in sacks in the playoffs. It's super impressive the amount of resources they invest. I'll give you an example. They paid Bryce Huff $17 million a year on a 3-year deal because he had double-digit sacks for the Jets last year. He was inactive for the game. And so that was a bad signing, and people are gonna give him flack for it, but that's the way they roll. And it turns out this rookie, Jalix Hunt, 3rd-round pick, is just better, and so they played him, and now he looks like he's going to be something legit for the next 3 years on a rookie contract.
Yeah, I saw a cut-up. One of our draft guys from CBS Sports, Chris Trapasso, had a breakdown on him today that I saw on social media. I'm like, Houston Christian is the college? Like, what? Like, where?
Well, hold on a second. So the story's even crazier. His first 2, maybe 3 years, he was a safety at Cornell.
Right.
And he got a little bit bigger, and he felt like he was kind of out of position at Cornell. He transfers to Houston Baptist, which I would venture to guess he's the first human being to ever transfer from Cornell University in the Ivy League to Houston Baptist. And he does that and then ends up moving to the end and being a 3rd-round pick, and now he's a Super Bowl champ.
With Ross Tucker, the narratives can change fast. Did it feel like an ending of sorts for Kansas City? With their age, skill positions, suddenly we're like, yeah, it's not easy living with Juju and Kareem Hunt and even maybe Kelsey now at this point. Ross, what do the Chiefs do next?
It's not an ending. It's not an ending. As long as Mahomes and Andy Reid are over there, they're going to be in the mix. And they have a very aggressive GM in Brett Veach who went out of his way to try to get rushers and O-linemen and receivers. it just wasn't enough, right? DeAndre Hopkins and Hollywood Brown and Juju and, then on the O-line, DJ Humphries, he didn't end up being as good as they needed him to be. They traded for Uche on defense. I mean, they are aggressive. They will be aggressive. They know what they have in Mahomes. And I think that they kind of feel like they owe that to Mahomes to continue to be that way. The Kelsey thing's interesting because he still had a solid season, but he's also clearly not what he used to be. So I think he's got to decide, what that means for him. And maybe the Chiefs, they both kind of have to figure that part of it out. I mean, he's still in a big game against the Texans in the playoffs, so he's still capable, even if he can't quite move as well as he used to. They'll be right in the mix as long as Mahomes and Andy Reid are there. I mean, they'll retool. It might take some cap gymnastics, but a lot of people thought they'd be done when they lost Tyreek Hill. They've been to 3 straight Super Bowls and won 2 since then. I do have a question, though. From your listeners, what's been the general feedback on the Eagles killing the Chiefs? Is it, that was awesome, I loved watching the Chiefs get smashed, I'm so glad that the Chiefs didn't win it? Is it, I'm bummed because I wanted us to be the team that beat the Chiefs and stopped them? Is it, oh, man, maybe we're further away than we thought because we lost the Chiefs and the Eagles just murdered them? What's like the general consensus of the callers?
I have a tough time always answering that question when anybody asks it. I don't mind that you asked it, but I don't like to put everybody in a box. I think, though, the light it shines, like I already alluded to, not to say like my point of view is shared by our audience in mass or anything, but it shines a light on McDermott and the defense and the personnel and the style, and you just left going, they were that gettable, and they scored the most points they scored all year against me the week before or 2 weeks before, and I think it's so good the Chiefs lost, but the way the Eagles put them down circles, I think, a lot of people back to I got some work to do on defense.
That's how I feel.
Much of that, and how much of that is personnel versus how much of that is Vic Fangio came up with a scheme that had Mahomes like spinning around and he looked lost, and when they played the Bills, he looked like he knew exactly what he was doing.
Well, it's 4 meetings now against them in the playoffs, and Mahomes has hardly ever been forced into a mistake.
I think I would say personnel. I mean, as I say, the scheme is irrelevant, but it's a pretty nice place to be if you can get that kind of pressure on him with just 4 guys. Right? So I don't know how exotic things were on the back end, but you got 7 guys at your disposal on every passing play to try to cover. And certainly you got to have athletes there that can cover quickly because the Bills were susceptible to the quick passing game. It didn't even really matter whether they were going to win up front or not because the ball was coming out before you'd get home most of the time anyways. So you got to have both things working for you. But I'm thinking more about personnel. I'm thinking about someone that can win off the edge. Like we're falling into a Myles Garrett rabbit hole over here, Ross, because I think Cleveland's going to have to trade him, and I want to bump my way to the front of the line as best I can.
Yeah, I think I think Rousseau did some good things for you this year. I think Ed Oliver is probably not what you needed him to be, but he's a good player. Probably not, where you drafted him what you need. I do think, I don't know if we talked about this last week or not. I think we did, because Greg Cosell just pointed out he does not think that the Bills are an overly talented team. And he referenced, what do you guys have? 2 Pro Bowlers, obviously, with Josh and Deion Dawkins, and then Josh being the only All-Pro. That's not going to be good enough. You know what I mean? That's not going to be good enough for you guys to go where you want to go. They need more guys to be able to play in Pro Bowls or get selected to Pro Bowls and All-Pro. It's like they have a bunch of good players, but not enough difference-making players, right? Where it feels like the Eagles have, more difference. Even like Saquon versus James Cook. James Cook is very good. Saquon is a difference-making player. The Bills, like Shakir is a good player. I would say A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are difference-making players. You know, even on some level, I think Kincaid is a nice player. I don't think he's as good as Goddard is. You know, I mean, so you kind of go right down the line, and it's like, like how many guys? We could do this sometime this offseason, but how many guys legitimately for the Bills would start for the Eagles? I don't know the answer to that. I would think it's probably not more than a handful, which, I mean, that's the team you might play in the Super Bowl. And if you only, have a hand, we did this when they played the Commanders in the NFC Championship game. I texted like 4 people in the league, and it was between 3 to 5 Commanders would start for the Eagles. I mean, that's your quarterback better be way better than the other quarterback if you only have 3 to 5 guys that would start for the other team. I mean, that's rough.
Ross, I think your time is up. My front page story. Is there time for Valentine's Day for this?
Yes and no. And I've actually been debating which one's better. So I think that there's not enough time for you to get the personalized written story about your significant other sent to you in the mail in time to give it to her for Valentine's Day. But I almost think it might be better this way. If you go to myfrontpagestory.com, you order the story for her, you print out, the email confirmation you get for everything in life, put it in an envelope, give it to her on Valentine's Day. She'll open it up, she'll say, what is this? And then you say to her, I'm having a story professionally written by an author about how amazing you are and how special you are and how I take you for granted sometimes. She, like, the look on her face. And then here's the thing. Can you imagine, like, for the next week or so, every time UPS or FedEx comes, this is someone that's never had anything written about them in their whole life. The anticipation of waiting for that story to get there, to, like, rip it open and read it, that almost, to me, it's like 3 gifts in one. Gift one is the envelope you give her. Gift two is the anticipation of every day waiting for the story to come. And then when the story actually gets there, I decided that's better than actually giving it to them on Valentine's Day. So it is not too late. MyFrontPageStory.com, by far the best Valentine's Day gift I've ever seen. And remember, I don't know if I've told you guys this recently, if you're in the Buffalo area, Western New York, or you hear me on WGR, if you order a story, MyFrontPageStory.com, forward me the email confirmation, Ross@RossTucker.com. I will send you an autograph, signed Bill's card or Bill's picture. Ross@RossTucker.com. After you get her the story at MyFrontPageStory.com, I promise.
Don't want to get weird, but I'm thinking of buying one of these for Ross. Just always a great guest there for us when we need him on Tuesdays at 5.
Gives so much of his time to us here.
I'm thinking about it. Yeah. Oh, was that out loud? Ross, thanks for another great season.
It is my pleasure. You guys know how I feel about you two, about Western New York, about the Bills. When something big comes up in free agency or the draft or whatever, please just reach out.
Will do for sure, man.
Thanks, Ross. Ross Tucker on the Wester Hotline. I got a couple of things I would tweak about a couple of his takes.
Okay.
Well, nothing big. The only thing I would say to the Super Bowl always being in New Orleans, as someone who doesn't go to Super Bowls anymore, is I much prefer an outdoor venue
for the game itself
to watch.
Right.
The Superdome doesn't do it for me. I mean, some of these places like Vegas are indoors, but they look like they're outdoors.
There's enough natural light coming in. Yeah. The Superdome is dark.
It looks old.
It's
on
dark.
TV, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So I would say that, and I forgot the second one. I just remember earlier in the conversation I was thinking there were 2 things I wanted to mention. Who would you rather have on your fantasy team, Bulldog, right now? Travis Kelce or Tyler Warren? This is the considered top tight end in the draft.
The kid, 100%. Whether it's keeper or whatever, just this year, if it's 1 year only, still the kid.
Penn State.
Yeah.
Maybe a first-round pick.
It seems that way. He looks real nice.
Kincaid versus Goddard. I don't know. I want to still be optimistic about Kincaid.
I think it's part of the reason, I mean, not to get all football-y, schematic-y and everything, but if you've got something outside that is a stressor, then Kincaid should have more available to him. And I don't know, his first year he's a rookie. They barely got down the field with him, but he still had a very good year. 73 catches for a rookie, only the 2 touchdowns, but still, I think, and Diggs was here. And no Diggs, and everybody eats, and okay, but Kincaid didn't really exist. The injury messed up things too, but I think there's still a player in there. Like, I think he's still someone who came into the league billed as the best pass catcher in that draft, a draft full of first-round wide receivers, by the way, who did catch 73 passes as a rookie. An injury-impacted year 2, I think there's no reason to be. I'm still pretty bullish on him, I guess I'm just trying to say.
That's JSN, Flowers, Johnston, and who? Those 4 receivers in a row.
Jordan Addison.
Jordan Addison.
That's the other one.
Well, 2 are really good.
Yeah.
1 is pretty good. And 1 at least kind of saved his career there, Johnston, with some moments this year. So not bad as a group. I would say about the refs, it's 2 different things, right? It's people who think it's fixed, which you absolutely cannot even have a conversation with about, just like, all right, there's no point. If they think it's fixed and they continue to watch it and drag around the idea that it's fixed, what is another person, like a reasonable person, supposed to do? You can either agree with it or you walk away. Like, you can't actually debate that. It's that crazy. Or, close enough to crazy. And then or the people that were fired up about Kansas City and officiating is that they, just kind of don't think the standard is high enough.
Well, and that's
not crazy.
No, that's entirely reasonable. I think the league has had an officiating problem for years and years, and they've made it, like, they've contributed to the conspiracy wacko stuff because of they're not being exactly transparent about what is and is not being ruled on from up above. You go all the way back to the playoff loss in 19 in Houston for that. Mm-hmm. Like, that was before Skyref, but had you ever seen the guys in the black coats who were apparently also in charge of officiating the game? That had never happened before, and like suddenly they're there, and now we've got Skyref, and like, oh, well, they can change this but not that, and like, oh, well, maybe they can't call a penalty that wasn't a penalty on the field, but then maybe they did it anyway in one of these playoff games, and like, what the hell? Like, that is not helping them. So you've got, ineptitude in some cases on the field being added to by, we're not really sure, it's kind of gray and dark and not defined. That's a recipe for conspiracy is what that is. I mean, I get it. It's, I think it's nutty, but I understand how you could get there.
The word is transparency, and if it's not transparent, these calls like you're describing, that can get you to, well, what are they hiding?
Right.
JFK is a thing again, apparently. Because 62 years later, no, but actually there's this one file that we have not wanted to show. If you're transparent, which I don't think, by the way, the government always has every responsibility to be. There should be some things that are not necessarily, whatever you want to know, we'll tell you. But anyway, like, if you're transparent, these sort of incongruous situations in football, this one's a meeting, this one's a Skyref, that's what starts that ball rolling, like you just said. 803-0550, Mike Schopp and the Bulldog back after the update here on WGR.
Headlines.
The final head coaching opening in the NFL has been filled. The New Orleans Saints are hiring Eagles offense coordinator Kellen Moore. The 36-year-old has had quick stops the last 2 seasons, spending 2023 with the Chargers as their offensive coordinator before winning the Super Bowl this year with the Eagles as their OC. And reports are also already starting for who will be on Moore's staff. Former Chargers head coach Brandon Staley appears to be the frontrunner for the Saints defensive coordinator position. And then staying with football, in college, UB has agreed to a new contract with head coach Pete Lembo. It's going to keep him with the program until 2029, and Pete Thamel of ESPN reports the new contract also includes a significant increase in resources for assistant coaches and staff. In just his first year on the job, Lembo went 9-4 overall, 6-2 in the conference, won a bowl game, and beat a ranked opponent for just the second time in school history. UB men also in action tonight in college hoops. They take on Northern Illinois at 7. That game's going to be on our sister station, The Bet 1520. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of business. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Philadelphia, these teams that are perennially in the driver's seat at the best of the best, stop taking projects late first round. Just because you're a good team and you have Hall of Fame quarterbacks, you shouldn't take on projects. I look at what teams like the Rams are doing, draft guys who are ready to come in and contribute because you're this close to making a Super Bowl, to winning a Super Bowl. I think you got to go with high impact early players instead of, and we got Josh Allen. We can take time to develop these guys. I would be looking at players who were in Power 4 conferences, 3+ year starters, and can come in and play right away as rookies.
Matt Miller recently on the station talking about the draft. Settle in for some draft ideas of the day and whatnot. One idea that I'm not sure we've talked about, and I'm also not sure who to focus on, would be to trade the pick for a player. Now, Myles Garrett, we've talked about every day, which is a package that would have to include pick 30. But, A.J. Brown, for example, was a mid-first-round pick, just 1 to 3 even. We realized that was Brown, wasn't it? We sort of got there last week. A friend of mine called. I found out later it was a guy I knew. He said 1 and a 3 for Metcalf. And
basing it on the Brown,
yes,
what it cost to make the Brown trade.
I guess.
Yeah.
And so I guess we have talked about this then a little bit with Metcalf, but finding that guy, if there is somebody that appeals to us in this case, or the Bills, maybe that's a move. But
yeah,
it's Garrett first.
Yeah. I definitely think so. I don't know. The money. I would still be surprised as much as any player that's that talented being added to your team. To dismiss it as I don't think that's a good idea would be, I think, kind of just a little harsh. But I would be surprised, and I guess I would advocate for them not getting back into the $30 to $35 million a year receiver game right now. You did prove you could make it work the way they made it work. Now, Cooper was a part of that, and he was on close to that tier of pay going into the year, but Cleveland adjusted his contract, and the Bills were able to get him and only had to pay him the bare minimum and got out of there. So that's a little bit of a false flag in the whole conversation, because the player was a player that rated that, even though you didn't have to pay him that, and it made the trade easier for the Bills to make happen. But all that said, you did show that you could make it work without paying one receiver that money. That's not going to last forever. I am not forever going to say don't do it. But for right now, considering what I think you should be looking to do on defense, it would stun me, and I would not advocate for making the big receiver play. Last year, you made the Diggs trade. I thought, here comes the other shoe. They're gonna be on everything and anything involving big name receivers. And I don't know if they were or weren't, but all I know is they never did it. I mean, Ayuk was the focus of that. He never even got traded. He re-signed in San Francisco. So I don't know how hard they worked at it, but I think they proved this year that you can still get your points without having that. And I think I would want to give that another whirl. Again, you're gonna have to do something to replace Cooper. and something pretty modest and hope maybe, and you could end up in the same spot you were last October, which is we didn't do enough, we need to do something, and then maybe you do it. But I think defense, looking at what I've been turned around 180 degrees by the Super Bowl, and that probably is not the smartest thing to do. It's one game, but to see Kansas City look that bad. Like, I'm not expecting the Bills to put a defense together that can do that to them, but I don't need that. I have this. I just need to slow them down. Right? Just get a couple more punts. Right? Get the odd interception here or there or whatever. That's where my focus is, and I think that's where theirs should be. So I'm sort of in line with what I think they'll do and what I would want them to do. And that's not go big game hunting at receiver. Again, I think they need to do something, but I haven't come across the idea that makes sense to me yet. Because I don't think DK Metcalf at that price is where I want to be.
It isn't where I want to be either. When it comes to decisions teams make, we're always speculating, and often you can know whether you were right or wrong by like what happened or what's said. That idea that when they traded Diggs, that we kind of, you and I, maybe most of us, thought that meant it's Brandon Beane. There will be, is the pancake breakfast. Like, there will be another move because they're not going to stop here. I think that was wrong in retrospect. Not talking about results, but I think that assumption was wrong because, I just was gullible that when it came around for training camp and everybody eats stuff, that no, this was the plan. I do believe now that was the plan, that trading Diggs meant a certain other direction. And that again includes the point I'm always thinking of, which is how they played in the back half of the season before, where they really didn't have. Diggs was nothing, really, in most of those games. They didn't need him. They won most games. They were running the ball all the time, shot way up their run rates in neutral situations, like to the top of the league. This is intentional.
Right. Six offensive linemen, leading the league in that. I mean, again, it's not 50% of their offense, but still, they led the league in using that kind of formation.
Yeah, and so they lose in the playoffs, and why? Well, A.J. Klein had to play. I mean, that wasn't so much about their offense. So I did have that thought all through last offseason, like this run thing is going to be their thing. Why would they not go back to that? But I still, at the same time, thought, well, they can't just not replace Diggs and Davis, like in a legitimate way. But I think that was wrong. I think they did plan on what they were. And one reason I would say now, thinking about it, that I feel like was in my way of getting to that conclusion was just the number of retread guys they were willing to sign and test MVS, who got money. Like, he wasn't a tryout. He got money to sign with the Bills, and eventually Claypool and these other ones. And there were others, there were rumors about others, and it just sort of felt like they're looking for that guy in a different department in the store, but that they want a
something
playmaker.
Else. They want something else, right? Yeah.
And I don't know, like, they were probably like, no, we don't think these players are going to be alphas. We know better than to think that, but we're trying to be as good as we can, and we don't have that much speed, and we'll see. So that, I would say, looking back, was to whatever extent we assumed Ayuk, right, or whoever else it might have been.
Yep.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no.
Yeah, that was a miss. Yeah. I mean, I got found the day the trade happened, you were off. Nate Geary was in here with me, and I started saying, like, there's going to be a shoe dropping. It's just a question of whether it's like a fancy little tiny petite high heel or like a construction boot. And the construction boot would be the big move, like the big shoe, right? And really, it took until October or whenever that trade with Cooper happened. It was like a week before the deadline. It was right after the Jets made the move to pivot to Devontae Adams. The next day, I think the Bills made the Cooper trade, and there was their move. And so that has me sort of like we said with Sale, an hour and a half or so ago, I think there is still, there's work to do there, but I just don't think it's going to be, at the high end of the market. I think their performance, the kind of team they want to be, the points they scored, that's synonymous with performance, and their money situation, and what they might be feeling about defense. Like, I don't want to assume that they're thinking like I'm thinking watching the Super Bowl, like, oh wow, we really need to do something dramatic over there. But I hope that they are. I just don't think that they can devote assets financially to getting that guy in the receiving corps, as much as it would be super fun to have a guy like DK Metcalf streaking down the field and Allen throwing him 60-yard rainbows.
Okay, well, if we do want someone else, though, on whatever level, one guy we've talked about in the past, never was traded either, but Tyler Lockett, who seemed kind of done, like a lot of these guys on that free agent list.
Yeah.
He's not a free agent. He's going to be, it looks like, with Seattle. And there's a Debo trade coming somewhere back to the Niners.
Yeah. That, boy.
I don't see the Bills doing that.
2 or 3 years ago, I would have thought that's a great idea. But is that, how dangerous, when he's right and in his prime, he's one of my favorite players in the league to watch. I just don't, there's a lot of wear and tear there. I just would really be worried about him at this point. And I don't know, how fat, what am I getting there? I need something that is dangerous. And I know he has been dangerous, but I feel like I'm buying a cliff if I buy him right now. I'd be really worried about him. And I don't like saying that because he's been one of my favorite guys in the league.
I think he goes cheap.
But if he goes cheap, then, take a flyer. But I don't know, is it really helping me?
Well, the contract's probably not cheap. Right? That's why he's cheap.
Oh, I see what you mean. You don't have to trade a lot. Yeah, right.
I think they maybe come close to giving him away. The way Dallas gave Cooper away. You know how much money Cooper has made?
Oh,
don't think about it.
Just $125 million.
136.
All right.
Very good.
He got a monster contract. He just finished it up. And again, the Browns, did a huge solid to anybody that was going to trade for him this year by converting some of that, almost all of that money. It was under like $1 million that he counted against the cap, I think, by the end of it, because of the way Cleveland handled his contract in the offseason. So
136, not bad. Not done
pretty good
necessarily either.
Right.
I don't know what the tape will look like on Cooper just quickly, because I thought they couldn't get him down the field at all, so speed wasn't really there. But I know he had a wrist injury, and if that had anything to do with it, that's a tough one to know. But it looked bad at the end, I thought, and I don't know if they didn't send him into different routes or more routes because they thought he would drop the ball because of his wrist or something. Then I guess that's the only excuse, maybe. But 32 teams, somebody, not a lot to pick from.
Right. I think he'll still get something more than what I'd be comfortable paying him to stay here.
We've got Paul coming up at 6. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, WGR.
More of
Bills are reportedly hiring former Carolina Panthers interim head coach, take your time, and longtime special teams coach in the league, Chris Tabor, to take over as their special teams coordinator. Browns, Bears, Panthers. And then 6 games as the head coach. And there are some very tough trivia in the land of interim head coaches.
I don't remember this at all. I guessed during the break here that's Matt Rule getting fired. And no kidding. Like, I think I know do I know most of the Bills interim head coaches?
Oh, well, there was Vizzy for New Orleans this year, Darren Vizzy, who was a special teams coach that became their interim head coach. Yeah. And I guess he's still on the market, maybe? I don't even know.
I think so, yeah. A lot of people are speculating he's going to end up in Denver with Peyton again because he's ties to Peyton from New Orleans. So,
Fuel, Anthony Lynn. Marv was not hired as an interim. He was hired in the middle of a season.
And he just took over, yeah. Like, he was not in the usually an interim is somebody who's on the staff already, right? You don't usually bring in a guy from outside to be interim coach. Yeah, They just hired Marv, yeah.
86.
Yeah.
Maybe 1 or 2 in the 60s or early 70s.
Yeah. But is that the list? Not that many, huh?
Well, I think so. Stevenson, Knox, Bull. I don't think any of those guys was interim. Just started at the beginning of a season.
Right. Well, Carolina again. Is that still a thing? Has it been long enough yet? I mean, McDermott's going to be going into year 9. I mean, I don't know. They have had pretty great results, but the Carolina thing is there if you want it, I guess.
Would have been with Brady there. Would not have been in Carolina when McDermott was there. Only 2 years with Carolina. Maybe that's helpful. Do you have something to watch tonight?
I don't think so. I did watch a lot of the Beanpot last night. Great game. BU upset BC. I mean, if number 9 in the country beating number 1 is an upset, I think it is. So that was fun. I got a guy for you. It's not a draft guy, but the goalie for BU is a Russian guy named Yegorov, who just showed up like halfway through the season. He's like a in-season guy called up from the USHL, still wearing an Omaha Lancers of the USHL mask. And he's a Devils draft pick, and man, does he look nice. Like, they got outshot. Well, I shouldn't say that. I don't know how many shots BU ended up with, but BC had 43 shots on goal. They scored the first goal of the game, but midway through the first period, and then he was spectacular while I was watching. That's a guy to keep an eye on. Probably a couple years away. Probably another year of college hockey after this one, and then look out.
Well, if you need something tonight, 7 o'clock for the women, then 9 o'clock for the men in lacrosse on ESPN Plus, I think it is. I should know if I'm going to tell you, but it's the Sixes tournament that my son and I went to a couple of years ago in outside of D.C., where the top teams from the previous PLL season compete. 4 teams make it. You have the Atlas and the Whip Snakes tonight at 9.
Okay.
Atlas Whips. It's really fun. The Sixes is goal, take the ball out. No face-offs. Face-offs kind of can not ruin a lacrosse game, but
bog it down
decide
a little bit.
Yeah. Decide it.
Okay.
Well, if one team has the face-off guy, the other doesn't, they're going to win all the draws. And good luck. But in Sixes, goalie takes the ball out. Let's go. Fast pace, good action. 9 o'clock tonight for the men. They just started a women's league, and the same two, Maryland and New York, play at 7 in the same venue. I'm taking off a little early. Bulldog has Paul talk some hockey after this break and the update. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
We know you can't hear every moment
is reporting the Bills are hiring former Panthers special teams coordinator and interim head coach Chris Tabor for their vacant special teams coordinator position. Tabor was out of the NFL last season, but from 2011 to 2023 was a special teams coordinator for Cleveland, Chicago, and finally Carolina. We also had another head coaching hiring today, the final one of this cycle, as the Saints are bringing in Eagles offensive coordinator Kellen Moore. 36-year-old has had some quick stops the past 2 seasons, 2023 as the Chargers offensive coordinator, and then was with the Eagles this year, where they ultimately won the Super Bowl. In college, UB has agreed to a new contract with head coach Pete Lembo. It's going to keep him with the program until 2029. Pete Thamel of ESPN is reporting that the new contract also includes a significant increase in resources for assistant coaches and staff. In just his first year on the job, Lembo went 9-4 overall, 6-2 in the conference, won a bowl game, and beat a ranked opponent for just the second time in school history. UB men also in action tonight in the college hoops region. They're taking on Northern Illinois at 7. That game's going to be on our sister station, the Bet 1520. And then in hockey, ahead of Canada and Sweden tomorrow night, Canadian head coach John Cooper confirmed Jordan Binnington will start in net. And for more on the Four Nations and hockey in general, Paul Hamilton will join the show next. That's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of business. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Okay, an hour and a half ago, I found out that Sal was here for this soup bowl that we had at work today. And now I'm just learning that Paul was also a part of the soup bowl that we had at work today. And, you know, I don't want to sound negative toward Mike. I mean, I knew Mike was involved. He talked about it yesterday on the show. I guess I'm admitting here that alone was not enough of a draw to get my ass in here at noon. So, you know, I showed up at my usual time, like 2:59 and 30 seconds, to start the show. I didn't know Paul was involved. Paul, did you make soup, or did you just come partake in soup eating?
No, I love soup. As soon as I saw that, and I go, you know, I don't have practice or games, I'm in. You know, so I came. I'm so glad I did. It was phenomenal. There were so many good soups and chilies there. I figured you would have made something and brought it. You make a good chili or something, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I thought about having my wife whip something up, not for the so much for to try to win the contest or anything. I would have said, like, you know, disqualify me from the voting, and my wife made this. But then, you know, like most things that would make me and maybe our coworkers feel good, I just didn't follow through. So
the winner was Christine from our sales department made a chicken wing soup that was absolutely out of this. Well, they actually, I didn't have a bad one. They were all good. But this chicken wing soup that won was just phenomenal. I think she won a car or something for winning the.
She won a car. It's hilarious. Yeah, we're talking about a toy car, a remote control car.
It was a lot of fun, and you know what? I don't get to see these people all that often.
I know
I'm not around, and you know, I got to see a lot of the people, from our sales staff or promotion staff or whatever it is that I don't get to see. So it was a lot of fun.
This is where a person like me says, I'm going to try to do better about coming to stuff like that and then not follow through at all. And then, you know, 6 months from now, a year from now, whenever if we have a Christmas in July party or something in the parking lot and there's barbecue, I'll skip that too. And then I'll find out everyone was there and everyone had a great time and I'm just a big jerk face.
This, from what I understand, is going to be an annual event. So you will get a mulligan and be able to attend next year. So,
I thought about making again, it's my wife that does it, but like I could figure out, well, to some extent what she does, like this sort of Italian sausage tortellini soup that is just.
Oh yeah, that would have been great. I can tell you already. I would have liked.
Yeah. All right, that's it. Next year, I'm committing to it now. Zach, if we're all still together, you hold me to it. Paul, you'll never forget because you don't forget anything. Like you hit your head 600 times in your life prior to now. You won't forget.
But I hit the jackpot. I got a little container of that chicken wing soup to bring home, so I have dinner.
Well, what's really nice is that Maria left me, one of our coworkers, I think she helps the sales staff, left me a Tupperware in the fridge with my name on it because when I did get here, there were, I don't know, 4 or 5 crock pots still active. And the first one I tried, she was standing in the area, and I'm like, what is this? And she said, it's carnitas. And I said, I'm in for that. I'm going to have some of that. She's like, I don't think most people even knew what carnitas was. I'm like, well, my wife makes it all the time. I'm going to have it. It was delicious. And she left me some to take home, which was very thoughtful of her.
Very cool.
I don't deserve any of this because I'm a jerk. Again, I'm like the worst employee ever. Well, speaking of food, Paul, what did you do what night did I text you, by the way, about was that Friday night, Edmonton, Colorado? Don't I live a wild life? I'm texting Paul at like 9:45 on a Friday night. Are you watching this Edmonton, Colorado game? It's friggin' great. And you were out kicking your heels up somewhere, and I was sitting home in my sweatpants.
Well, we started with barbecue with Rob and Dan and Pat Melicaro, so that was good. The restaurant we chose, I won't say exactly what the guy came in with, but he came in with something you might see at a stag party. And so that was the kind of restaurant we were at. And
all right.
So that got the ball rolling fast, and it just went downhill from there.
All right. Well, I'm glad you had fun. Speaking of all this food, what do you do for the Super Bowl? And let's talk a little bit about the game because I mean you do cover the Bills in training camp and through the season intermittently. Before hockey really gets going, you're kind of on that beat, assisting Sal and the station in general. Man, my biggest takeaway, Paul, was that this defense, I'm usually giving the defense a pass. Give me the ball, give my quarterback the ball in his hands, and let him go win the game. And you've had a chance to do that 2 years in a row with Kansas City, and you haven't come through. And that kind of, by virtue of that opinion, it gives the defense a bit of a pass for giving up 9 yards of play 2 years ago, like they did to KC, and giving up a season high in points to the Chiefs this year in the loss in the AFC title game. Man, getting an eye full of Philly. Man, I was already eager for Myles Garrett. I'm like barging to the front of the line now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sure, the Bills don't have the players that the Philadelphia Eagles have defensively, but still there is a recipe to beat Patrick Mahomes, and the Bills have not dialed that recipe up at all in the playoffs. In the regular season, yes, they do, but they also don't get to see the whole Chiefs offense in the regular season either. So, watching that, I kind of had that on my mind. I also had on my mind on the tush push, every Chief was probably laying on his back 3 to 5 yards back into the end zone, and I thought, okay, that does work if you do it right.
Right. They didn't find a cheat code to stop the Eagles version.
Or, when you take the step left every single time you run it, and every Chief on defense is in the hole before your guys even are off the ball. Maybe if you would have faked to the left and taken a step right with all the Chiefs already in the hole because they knew that they could get there as soon as the ball snapped because the Bills won't do anything different, Allen might have been able to walk into the end zone because all the Chiefs would have been laying on the ground trying to plug the hole that you're not in.
Yeah.
So I kind of gave that a thought, too, as I was watching every Chief laying on his back 3 yards deep into the end zone.
Yeah. How do you... I haven't ever thought to ask you this. How did you like the broadcast? You know what stood out to me? I forgot about this yesterday and all day until now, and I don't know if I'm glad I brought it up. I guess we'll see how this conversation goes from here before I decide whether I'm glad I thought of it. Didn't the graphics look weird?
Yeah, they did.
It looked like a kid's toy telephone or something. Like everything was just really big, and it's like, what are we doing here? Why?
Yeah, I agree with that. I didn't understand it at all. But you've known me long enough too. I'm a little resistant to change sometimes. So I know that doesn't shock you that I said that.
Yeah.
But, so that did hit me. But I'm not as sensitive to I don't care about that they have referees there talking about whatever. It doesn't bother me. I don't care. I think Brady does a pretty nice job for the most part. So I don't get too tied up in knots or whatever about the broadcast. I don't write tweets and letters that, they don't like the Bills and all that kind of stuff. I
right.
care less, to be quite honest with you.
I don't ever really worry about that. I think Brady, I thought he was going to be annoyingly great at that job. Because, he's a hard person this just in for me to really like. He's ruined our lives for more than 20 years as the quarterback of the team in the Bills division. So I tend to hold that against the guy. I thought he'd be really good at it. And I think he's all right. He's not bad at it. It'd be, shocking if he were bad at it. But I just think he's pretty ordinary. I don't feel like he offers anything. Greg Olson to me was a way better listen and way more informative and interesting in that seat before Brady came along to me, and I can't stand that play-by-play guy.
I agree. Greg Olson was very good. I think maybe he got the shaft on the whole deal.
Yeah.
But there were times, a lot of times, honestly, Brady would tell me things like, oh, okay, yeah, things I didn't know. The only thing that bugged me about him is he repeats things a lot. You'd make a point, and he would make it like 5 times throughout the broadcast. And he'll get over that as he gets to do. I don't know how much longer he's going to be able to do it since he's part owner, or whatever they call it with the Raiders. But he might be their quarterback by next year. I don't know. But that was the only thing that I noticed is he would just say sometimes the same things or use the same wording on things, and he'll get better at that.
Yeah.
But there were times, but I do agree with you. I do like Greg Olson better.
Yeah, and that Burkhardt he's the new. Do you know about my wide open problem?
No.
Don't you feel like when we were kids watching football, or even younger adults than we obviously are now, that wide open would be like the only guy on the screen and he's waltzing in for a touchdown, like wide open, like you're wide open. This guy is like wide open, and there's a defender to push the guy out of bounds right there, right next to him, like wide open. I just cannot stand the overuse of wide open, and Burkhardt has become the worst offender. It used to be Buck, but I've sort of gotten to a place where I like Buck and Aikman now, and this Burkhardt drives me insane. It's wide open, and he's pushed out of bounds immediately by the defender. Like, shut up with wide open. You can just be open. Everything doesn't have to be wide open. You just be open. Open's good.
All right, I'll go along with that.
Yeah. I care way too much about stuff that does not matter at all. Paul Hamilton on the Western Hotline here with us on WGR. All right, some hockey. I don't know. You don't know how prepared you were for any of that, but you did great, Paul. And I'm not sorry I brought any of it up. The hockey.
Always prepared for things like that.
We'll get to the Four Nations because that's firing up tomorrow with Canada and Sweden, and eventually the U.S. and Finland on Thursday, and we'll get to that. The Sabres put a wrap on things there for a couple of weeks in Nashville on Saturday, and holy cow, what happened to UPL, Paul?
Yeah, it wasn't his best game, that's for sure, but it certainly wasn't all his fault. I mean, and I think the thing, that was kind of just right there is what's wrong with the Buffalo Sabres. I mean, here they are in a good roll. They'd played 7 good games in a row. They had won 5 of them. So now, all right, you can start, all right, this is a good game for us because Nashville was in Chicago the night before while Buffalo's sitting there waiting for them, and they lost to the Blackhawks, who are worse than both teams, and they've lost 6 in a row. So perfect opportunity to win your 5th in a row and go out on a high note. All you got to do is not feed their offense. Well, they had an offense of their own, no question about it. I think they had 77 shot attempts, and they scored 4 goals. The offense wasn't the problem other than they missed a lot of opportunities. But the first 2 opportunities Nashville had after Buffalo had all the opportunities were in the net because of goofy passes. They turned the puck over, again, feeding Nashville's offense. But I want that first one. Byram played that perfectly. It's a 3-on-1. He took the pass away from both guys. There was no way that they were going to get the pass across for a layup. So it's goaltender against shooter. That's exactly what you want. The goaltender wasn't even close to making a save. He's back in his crease, and it's in the net. He's got to make a big save there. I mean, he's got the shooter. The defenseman's got the pass. He did his job. He's got the shooter, and it wasn't even close.
Right. That sounds very much like a goalie not trusting the defenseman to do the right thing and take that pass away because you're staying back in the net because you're playing for the pass.
Yeah, and Byram did his job perfectly. The power play goal, again, it's just a wrist shot from the blue line, and he kicks out this enormous rebound to their best goal scorer. Well, he's standing there, and he puts it into an empty net. It's like, You can't be kicking a rebound out like that. And so you've scored 4 goals. Your defensive coverages were horrendous. I mean, how many Nashville players were standing by themselves in front of the net for goals? But still, through it all, you did score 4, and you had 77 shot attempts, so the game was there for you. You did come back and tie it, and still lost the game. I mean, you came back and tied it twice, I guess. Yeah, you were behind 2-0. And I thought, well, there goes the first period interview. And by the time the period was over, it was 2-2, and I had my first period interview. And they came back twice in that game and still lost it. And that, to me, is a microcosm of their season. It's just you can't lose that game. With everything involved coming into that game, plus you actually did come back as badly as you played defensively, and you were with your puck management, you did come back. And you still lost that game. You can't lose that game.
What do you suppose there is to do now? There is not actually a roster freeze, although, the league doesn't like when you do things that upstage events. So, we'll see if anybody breaks that. There was a lot of activity in the week or more running up to this break for the Four Nations Cup. Or Four Nations Challenge. Sorry, I should say it properly. We talked to Kevin Adams a couple of weeks ago, Paul, and I asked him about Zucker and Greenway pending free agents and whether or not, what's going to be the move there. And I think Zucker, he said they've already talked. He's talked to Jason. He's talked to the representative. But, they'd like to get something done, and their camp seems open to it. I don't know where he stands on Greenway. I don't remember what he said about Greenway. I think he said the usual sort of, we like him as a player and would like to have him, whatever, but that doesn't guarantee anything. I'm going a long way to say, what do you think we got here for the next few weeks before the trade deadline comes in early March?
Well, first of all, if I'm the GM of the Buffalo Sabres, I couldn't care less what the league wants. I mean,
okay, sure.
If I can make the deal that I can make to, let's say, get a top 6 forward, it's being made. Sorry. And that's the type of trade. They need the Byram Middlestat trade. They don't need anything that brings in draft picks or anything like that. They don't need to send Zucker because he's an unrestricted free agent somewhere to get a draft pick or get a third-round pick or whatever it might be. I agree that I think you help your hockey team more by signing those 2 guys. Now Zucker's to an age now. I don't know if I'd sign him for more than a couple of years, but I'd be looking to do that. And maybe his camp thinks, well, we could get more than 2 years someplace else because he's having a good year.
Right.
But he's not somebody I'd be wanting off my team. I want to get more of Zuckers and Greenways.
Right.
That's what I'd be looking for is to get players. I want to look for a top 6 forward that maybe is going to be here for a while. And they proved last year that trade is there if you want. And that trade has kind of been there. Teams have been making trades, early here. So that trade has been there. Some very good players have moved. So I'd be looking for that. And I think that's what they should be looking at. What they should not be looking at is to get rid of some guy to get a draft pick.
Right. So, well, I guess is this where I usually I feel like you would hit me with this, but I'll hit you with it instead. You could get something for either guy and re-sign them in July, right? Like Zucker and Greenway.
Could. But then you're taking the chance of all of a sudden
they really like
pull a Drury on you. Drury had told the Sabres, we'll come back with any offer we get, and next thing you know, there's a press conference that he's signing with the Rangers. He did not do that, so you're taking the risk that whatever player we're talking about, goes somewhere else and doesn't come back to you. So, that could happen. I think Bo Byram needs to be a focus for them. I think they need to bring him back. If you ask me right now, and I'm not down on Power as much as everybody else is, I'm really not. But if you pinned me down right now, who would you rather have? I'd rather have Bo Byram. And so I'd be more concentrating on getting him signed. I asked him, he was on our pregame show not too long ago, and he said that That's not something that he's really focused on right now. He hasn't had the conversation with his family, what would be best for his family and with his agents and that type of thing. So it was basically, it wasn't a yes, it wasn't a no that he would want to come. Now he's restricted. He can't go anywhere right now.
Right.
But you'd like to get him locked up so he can't go anywhere. And to me, that long term, I think I'd probably rather have Byram than Power if I can only have one.
Boy, I'm not sure I agree with you. I feel like Byram is with Dahlin, and like that helps him a lot, I think. I
think it's the other way around.
Really?
Yeah.
Boy, I don't know.
I think Byram's helping Dahlin a lot.
Wow. Aren't the numbers on Byram separated from Dahlin horrendous?
There are a lot of nights that Byram is their best defenseman.
Wow. Well, that's interesting because when you said the Middlestat for Byram trade, I thought, could there be another Byram for Middlestat trade?
But they're playing well together. That's for sure.
Well, right. I get no argument there. I just don't know. Like, I'm not sure I want to trust Byram on his own pair. But Byram
just seems to be getting better and better. I mean, I'm noticing him more in the offensive zone, even though he's paired with Dahlin. And they seem to realize when the other's up. I mean, when Byram's up playing around in the offensive zone, they're not getting caught. Dahlin sees it.
Yeah.
So he's not in there with them. And when Dahlin's up there, Byram sees it, and he's not in. So they seem to really have a good chemistry and work well together that way.
You know, it's a little, I don't know, it's not exactly funny, but it's a bit of an oddity that, like, the motivation, I loved the idea of the Middlestat-Byram trade last year. That was the guy I wanted them to trade Middlestat for, and they did it. So, yay, right? But the motivation to move Middlestat was, well, I'm already committed to Thompson. I'm committed to Cousins. So do I have a third big center contract here? And it's time for Middlestat, to be either become a part of the core or be voted off the island. And they voted off the island. Here comes Byram, and it's a little bit of the same thing. I've got 3 left-handed defensemen, 2 of whom are already being paid, and Byram is surely, if they were to get a big deal done with him, a multi-year deal, it would come in somewhere between those 2, I think, and that's a lot of eggs to have in 3 lefties' baskets, I think.
I think it was until we're seeing that, the collective bargaining. I mean, they put out, the NHL put out these things like payrolls in the next 3 seasons. Upper limit in 25-26 could be 95.5. 26-27 could be 104. 27-28 could be 113. So, I'm looking at their email right now, that they put out there. So, as that didn't look daunting a year ago or so, but now that you see these numbers, it's not quite as daunting. And to get that top 6 forward, we were seeing, when of course all the rumors of, about Pettersson were out there, and it's like they want Byram, and I'd say, how about Power? Instead, that's what I would have done. And again, it's not that I'm down on him, but there are things I see in Byram's game. The way, he gets in shot lanes and blocks big shots at big times. I think even though Power's not bad at getting the puck out of his zone, I think Byram's better. I think Byram's better at defending, although I think Power will get better as he goes along. But if I got to make a choice and I got to make the deal that's going to make this team better, and I got to give up one of them, Power would be the one I'd give up.
Yeah, we're just about out of time here, Paul, and so I did not save enough time because I wasn't expecting to have like an argument about Byram and Power, if that's what this ended up turning into. I think we disagree. There's no question about that. Yeah. For what are you looking most forward to? Like, we can maybe get into it more as the tournament gets up and running, but do you think we're going to get – what's most likely? It's all out, like, oh, my God, we got to win this thing, or is it somewhere between, like – the regular season and an all-star game?
It won't be like an all-star game, and I think the first game we see tomorrow might be a little feeling it out and that type of thing. But I think once it gets going, I think it's going to the best on best idea. I think is going to be fantastic. I probably have brought it up to you before. I was in the building in Hamilton when. Howard-Chuck wins the draw, and down come Gretzky and Lemieux on the same line, and Lemieux scores. And Bulldog, I have never heard an arena go off like that one did after that goal. I've never seen or heard anything like it. The hockey throughout that whole tournament was phenomenal. I believe it was in both Hamilton and Toronto, so I got to see a lot of it. I'm disappointed it's in Montreal and Boston where I can't be there, but that's the kind of hockey I think it's going to turn into. Maybe not right away.
All right. Good. Sounds good, Paul. Thank you very much for this, and we'll catch up once this thing gets up and running, like I said.
Okay, sounds good.
That's our man, Paul Hamilton. His appearances on WGR brought to you by Equitable Advisors. Planning for your future is about more than just money. Let Equitable be your guide. And by Relax Honda. Relax. We got this. We'll hit up a timeout. We had one last visit with Ross Tucker, and we will bring you that conversation right after this on WGR.